Think of space-time as a loaf of bread. Einstein realized that just as there are different ways to cut a loaf of bread into individual slices, there are different ways to cut space-time into individual now slices. That is, because motion affects the passage of time, someone who's moving will have a different conception of what's happening right now. And so they'll cut the loaf into different now slices. Their slices will be at a different angle.
That person who's moving will tilt the knife, will be carving out these slices at a different angle. They won't be parallel to my slices of time.
To get a feel for the bizarre effect this can have, imagine an alien here in a galaxy 10 billion light years from Earth, and way over there on Earth, the guy at the gas station. Now, if the two are sitting still, not moving in relation to one another, their clocks tick off time at the same rate, and so they share the same now slices, which cut straight across the loaf. But watch what happens if the alien hops on his bike and rides directly away from Earth. Since motion slows the passage of time, their clocks will no longer tick off time at the same rate. And if their clocks no longer agree, their now slices will no longer agree either. The alien's now slice cuts through the loaf differently. It's angled toward the past.
Since the alien is biking at a leisurely pace, his slice is angled to the past by only a minuscule amount. But across such a vast distance, that tiny angle results in a huge difference in time.
So, what the alien would find on his angled now slice, what he considers is happening right now on Earth, no longer includes our friend at the gas station, or even 40 years earlier when our friend was a baby. Amazingly, the alien's now slice has swept back through 200 years of Earth history and now includes events that we consider part of the distant past, like Beethoven finishing the Fifth Symphony.
Even at a relatively slow speed, we can have actually tremendous disagreements on our labeling of now, what happens at the same time, if we're spread out far enough in space.
And if that's not strange enough, the direction you move makes a difference too. Watch what happens when the alien turns around and bikes toward Earth. The alien's new now slice is angled toward the future. And so it includes events that won't happen on Earth for 200 years. Perhaps our friend's great-great-great-granddaughter teleporting from Paris to New York. Once we know that your now can be what I consider the past, or your now can be what I consider the future, and your now is every bit as valid as my now, then we learn that the past must be real. The future must be real. They could be your now. That means past, present, future, all equally real. They all exist.
If you believe the laws of physics, there's just as much reality to the future and the past as there is to the present moment.
The past is not gone, and the future isn't non-existent. Past, the future, and the present are all existing in exactly the same way.
Just as we think of all of space as being out there, we should think of all of time as being out there too. Everything that has ever happened or will happen, it all exists. Think of space-time
The Heisenberg uncertainty principle is one of a handful of ideas from quantum physics to expand into general pop culture. It says that you can never simultaneously know the exact position and the exact speed of an object, and shows up as a metaphor in everything from literary criticism to sports commentary. Uncertainty is often explained as a result of measurement. that the act of measuring an object's position changes its speed, or vice versa. The real origin is much deeper and more amazing. The uncertainty principle exists because everything in the universe behaves like both a particle and a wave at the same time. In quantum mechanics, the exact position and exact speed of an object have no meaning. To understand this, we need to think about what it means to behave like a particle or a wave. Particles, by definition, exist in a single place at any instant in time. We can represent this by a graph showing the probability of finding the object at a particular place, which looks like a spike, 100% at one specific position, and 0 everywhere else. Waves, on the other hand, are disturbances spread out in space, like ripples covering the surface of a pond. We can clearly identify features of the wave pattern as a whole, most importantly, its wavelength, which is the distance between two neighboring peaks, or two neighboring valleys. But we can't assign it a single position. It has a good probability of being in lots of different places. Wavelength is essential for quantum physics because an object's wavelength is related to its momentum, mass times velocity. A fast-moving object has lots of momentum, which corresponds to a very short wavelength. A heavy object has lots of momentum even if it's not moving very fast, which again means a very short wavelength. This is why we don't notice the wave nature of everyday objects. If you toss a baseball up in the air, its wavelength is a billionth of a trillionth of a trillionth of a meter, far too tiny to ever detect. Small things, like atoms or electrons, though, can have wavelengths big enough to measure in physics experiments. So if we have a pure wave, we can measure its wavelength and thus its momentum, but it has no position. We can know a particle's position very well, but it doesn't have a wavelength, so we don't know its momentum. To get a particle with both position and momentum, we need to mix the two pictures to make a graph that has waves, but only in a small area. How can we do this? By combining waves with different wavelengths, which means giving our quantum object some possibility of having different momenta. When we add two waves, we find that there are places where the peaks line up, making a bigger wave, and other places where the peaks of one fill in the valleys of the other. The result has regions where we see waves separated by regions of nothing at all. If we add a third wave, the regions where the waves cancel out get bigger, a fourth and they get bigger still, with the wavy regions becoming narrower. If we keep adding waves, we can make a wave packet with a clear wavelength in one small region. That's a quantum object with both wave and particle nature. But to accomplish this, we had to lose certainty about both position and momentum. The position isn't restricted to a single point. There's a good probability of finding it within some range of the center of the wave packet. And we made the wave packet by adding lots of waves, which means there's some probability of finding it with a momentum corresponding to any one of those. Both position and momentum are now uncertain, and the uncertainties are connected. If you want to reduce the position uncertainty by making a smaller wave packet, you need to add more waves, which means a bigger momentum uncertainty. If you want to know the momentum better, you need a bigger wave packet, which means a bigger position uncertainty. That's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, first stated by German physicist Werner Heisenberg back in 1927. This uncertainty isn't a matter of measuring well or badly, but an inevitable result of combining particle and wave nature. The uncertainty principle isn't just a practical limit on measurement. It's a limit on what properties an object can have, built into the fundamental structure of the universe itself.
If you've heard anything about quantum mechanics, you've probably heard of Schrödinger's cat. It's a famous thought experiment, not a real experiment, in which a cat is said to be both alive and dead at the same time. It's in a quantum superposition. But what does that really mean? What is a quantum superposition? Does this bizarre thought experiment relate to the real world at all? Well, yes and no. The idea behind Schrödinger's cat relates to a very real phenomenon, the fact that in the quantum world, sometimes a particle appears to be doing two contradictory things at the same time. Take the double-slit experiment. In that experiment, an electron appears to pass through two slits in the screen at the same time. We can explain this by describing the electron as a wave, but we could also say the electron was in a superposition of all the possible paths. Add up all those paths and you get something that looks like a wave. In a sense, superpositions are just a way of talking about quantum uncertainty. In quantum mechanics, we can't know any property of a particle with 100% certainty. Not because our measurements aren't good enough, but because quantum mechanics simply doesn't allow it. So if we can't say if the particle is over here or over here, then for all practical purposes, it's in both places at the same time. And many others. It has to do with the connection between an experiment and an observation. When an electron is moving through space, acting like a wave with no specific location, we can say it's in a superposition. But when we actually observe it splatting against the wall, we only see that splat in one spot, making the observation appears to have destroyed the superposition. The electron had to choose one spot to interact with the wall in. Every time we observe a particle, we're ruining a perfectly good superposition. When this effect was first discovered, physicists argued about the implications. What does it mean to observe an experiment? Does the observer have to be consciously aware of the observation? Are we, as conscious beings, creating reality as we go? The prevailing interpretation at the time was that any isolated quantum system is always in a superposition up until the moment it interacts with the world outside. You could do an experiment inside a sealed box, and as long as the experiment involves quantum uncertainty, the result is in a superposition until the box is opened and observed, no matter what else is in the box. In discussing the situation with his buddy Einstein, Erwin Schrödinger came up with the example of the experiment with the cat to illustrate the absurdity of this idea. We've edited the details of the experiment here to make it feline-friendly, but you'll get the gist. What if, Schrödinger said, approximately, you put a perfectly happy, healthy, sleepy cat into a box with a radioactive atom that has some probability of decaying between now and the end of the experiment. A single atom won't harm the cat, but if it decays, it triggers a Geiger counter that's attached to an alarm clock, which rudely awakens the cat. Now, before you open the box, you don't know the state of the atom. As far as you're concerned, it's in a superposition of intact and decayed, which means the Geiger counter is both triggered and not, which means the alarm clock has both gone off and not, and the cat is both sleeping and awake. Now, you open the box at your peril. A sleeping cat won't even notice, but an awake cat will not be happy to see you after you pulled that stunt with the alarm. According to the thought experiment, though, opening the box is the only thing that settles the cat into one state or the other. The cat is both happily sleeping and angrily awake. Both Einstein and Schrödinger considered this to be nonsense. Surely the cat itself is an observer for the purpose of forcing the particle into a single state, as is, for that matter, the Geiger counter and the alarm clock. But exactly how quantum states transition from superpositions to something more definite is still an open question, as is why particles can be superpositions, but large objects like people can't.
The fable of the Schrödinger cat, who is asleep and awake in superposition, I think is fantastic because it brings to light the mysterious aspect of quantum theory. Superposition, the cat who is happy and sleeping or angry and awake, it's two things at the same time. In which sense? That's a mystery. By itself, we should not think about reality as individual object with properties. And this is a deep change in the nature of reality itself. That's the beauty of quantum mechanics. It forces us, as a huge cultural evolution, to rethink what is reality from scratch.
Quantum superposition doesn't pose any actual danger to cats or to the human beings who love them. In fact, we can use superposition to our advantage in our technology. In quantum computing, superposition is how a qubit, a quantum bit, can be both 1 and 0 at the same time, and that presents a whole new world of extremely powerful computational techniques.
Lexicographers will tell you that time, the word, T-I-M-E, is the most used noun in the English language. We can't get through the day without talking about time all the time. I think about how we use time when we actually talk about it. If you say, meet me at 7 p.m., no one panics No one says like, oh my God, what are you talking about with these esoteric concepts about 7 p.m.? You know, we all know what to do operationally. Time, in some sense, is just a label on different events in the universe. The universe happens over and over again at different things we call moments, and time helps us tell the difference between one moment and another. So what time is, I don't think is the problem. The issue, the real puzzles, come about when we talk about the properties that time has. We have a past, we have a present, we have a future. How are they different? Are we moving through it? We have memories of the past, but we have no memories of the future. Why is that? Where does that asymmetry come from? Why are we all born young? Why do we all inevitably age? Why do we think that we can affect the future but not the past? Could we possibly travel back into it? Anyway, there's a lot of questions about the nature of time that are really confusing, and many of them we don't know the answer to. But what time is, I don't think is one of them. One of the most noticeable features of time is that it has a direction, right? That there's a difference between the past and future. Sometimes we think about this as just an intrinsic feature of reality, like the past already happened, it's in the books, the future is up for grabs, it hasn't happened yet, and the present is where we live. But then along comes physics, and what people notice about our best theories of physics is that those theories do not distinguish between the past and the future. But in our everyday lives, nothing is more obvious. It really requires a bit of mental discipline to say, well, time could exist without an arrow. And one way of thinking about that is, there is no intrinsic arrow of space, but there's still space, okay? We live in a three-dimensional world, up, down, left, right, forward, backward. At the level of the fundamental laws of physics, there's no special direction in space. And how you perceive that is, imagine you're an astronaut. You're flying around in your little spacesuit. There wouldn't be any difference between any direction you could look. There's no experiment you could do in physics that would point out a direction in the universe, but space still exists. Likewise, time would still exist even if there wasn't an arrow. But here on Earth, we do have an arrow of space. If I pick up a coffee cup and let it go, it will always fall down. There's clearly a distinction between up and down. No one is tempted to think that's a fundamental feature of the universe. It's not because downness is embedded in the laws of physics. It's because we live in the vicinity of an influential object, the Earth. The arrow of time is exactly the same way. We, in our everyday lives, perceive an arrow of time because we live in the aftermath of an influential event, the Big Bang. And that gets us into a realm of the concept of entropy. Entropy is how messy, how disorganized, how random a system is. When things are nice and neat and tidy, they are low entropy. When they're all messy and all over the place, they are high entropy. And there's a natural tendency of things in the universe to go from low entropy to high entropy. This is called the second law of thermodynamics. The real question is, why was the world ever low entropy to begin with? Why was the world lower entropy yesterday than it is today? The explanation is not completely satisfying, to be honest. The explanation is the following: because it was even lower entropy the day before yesterday. And why was the universe even lower entropy the day before yesterday? Because it was even lower entropy the day before that. And this chain of reasoning goes back 14 billion years to the Big Bang, to the origin of our observable universe in a hot, dense state, a very low entropy state, and the universe has been increasing in entropy ever since. And this is called the past hypothesis by philosophers. David Albert, who's a philosopher of physics, gave it this name. So now we say, if you know that the world is made of atoms, and you know what entropy is in terms of rearranging all those atoms, and you know the past hypothesis, that the entropy of the universe started really low, then you can explain everything that happened after that. There's a way of talking about human life and entropy which I think is misguided, which is that we should think about life, literally living, being a biological organism, taking in food and everything, as a fight against increasing entropy. I think that's wrong. I think that we owe life to the fact that entropy is increasing. Because what would it mean if entropy were not increasing? It would mean that nothing is happening. Nothing interesting is taking place. Without entropy increasing, there's no memory of the past. Without entropy increasing, there's no causal effect that we have on the future. You'd just be in what we call thermal equilibrium. Everything would be the same everywhere. It would be the maximally boring universe. But what we do have as a scientific question is, why do complicated, complex structures come into existence at all? It's clear that they need increasing entropy to exist, because if entropy were already maxed out, there would be no complexity. But that doesn't mean they have to come into existence. Think about a famous example where the perfume is all in a little bottle, it's in a big room, you open it, and it all floats through the room. The entropy of the perfume increases. But if you think about it, when the perfume is all in the bottle, it's very simple. Once it's all spread through the room, it's also very simple. It went from low entropy to high entropy, but it went from simple to simple. It's the journey from the simple low entropy starting point to the simple high entropy ending point that there's a large space of possibilities where things can be intricate. There's more perfume here over there. There can be swirls caused by the motion of the wind in the room and so forth. The universe is just like that. Our universe started out simple and low entropy. In the future, the stars will die, the black holes will evaporate, it'll be dark, empty, and again simple, but high entropy. It's in between that things like us, complicated, intricate systems that feed off of the increasing entropy of the universe, can and do come into existence. We don't know the whole story there. I think this is a very fun, active scientific research area. Why did complex structures like living beings come into existence in exactly the way we did? What is the role of information? What is the down-to-earth chemistry that is going on here? What is the geology that is going on here? Could it happen on other planets? Very interesting questions. But one thing I do know is that if entropy weren't increasing along the way, none of it would have come to pass.
Get smarter, faster with videos from the world's biggest thinkers.
Crash Course Philosophy is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace, share your passion with the world.
Let's say, for the sake of argument, that you love your father, by which I mean you want him to be alive. And let's also assume that you don't have any attachments to your mother that you might describe as romantic. Well, guess who thought he felt the same way about his parents, Oedipus? According to ancient Greek legend, when Oedipus was born, a prophecy foretold that he would kill his father and marry his mother. So, in an act of colossally bad decision-making, his father left baby Oedipus in the wilderness, assuming he would die, and the prophecy would then not come true. But instead, the abandoned baby was discovered and raised by another family. As an adult, Oedipus learned of the prophecy that he would kill his father and marry his mother. So, not knowing he was adopted, he left his adoptive parents in order to avoid fulfilling that prophecy, figuring that if he wasn't near them, it couldn't come true. Lo and behold, as he was trying to flee his fate, Oedipus killed a stranger in a fit of rage who turned out to be the father he had never met. He then proceeded to marry the dead man's widow, who was actually his mother, though he didn't know it. Needless to say, this is a fate that any of us would like to avoid. But for philosophers, the whole point of the story of Oedipus is there is no escaping fate. Are we free? I mean, on the one hand, most of us have the clear sense that we are. We feel free. We feel like we make all sorts of decisions that lead to both beliefs and actions that are wholly of our own choosing, like, I could do that. I had oatmeal this morning because I felt like it. This view that humans are capable of entirely free actions is known as libertarian free will. And to be clear, libertarian free will is nothing like political libertarianism. Both views get their name from the word liberty, but political libertarians are all about freedom from government intervention, while people who accept libertarian free will could be anything from political libertarians to socialists. They just think that metaphysically we can act freely. So a lot of us figure that our thoughts and actions are free, but most of us also believe that every effect has a cause and that everything that happens now in the present is the necessary result of events that occurred in the past. This view is known as hard determinism, and many of the people watching this probably think that they believe in both things, that many of your actions are free and that the world is governed by cause and effect. But it turns out you can't rationally hold both views, because traditionally libertarians have defined free actions according to what's known as the principle of alternate possibilities. That might sound like a plot device for a sci-fi show, but this principle says that an action is free only if the agent, that is the person doing the thing, could have done otherwise. So truly free actions require options. Determinism, by contrast, doesn't allow options. It holds that every event is caused by a previous event, which means that an agent can never have done anything other than what they did, and therefore they are never free. But let's look at these two options more closely, and also let's look at my breakfast. Libertarianism says that my decision to eat oatmeal this morning wasn't necessarily caused by anything that happened before it. Instead, it could have been the result of non-physical events, specifically my own thoughts that originated right at that point. I ate oatmeal because I decided to eat oatmeal. End of story. But libertarianism runs counter to what we know about the workings of the physical world, with one thing causing another. So libertarians need a way to account for their view. One way they do that is by making a distinction between what's known as event causation and agent causation. Event causation means that no physical event can occur without having been caused by a previous physical event. So many libertarians concede that the physical world itself is deterministic, like a baseball is flying through the air because someone hit that ball with a bat. But many libertarians also argue that there's such a thing as agent causation, which says that an agent, a being propelled by a mind, can start a whole chain of causality that wasn't caused by anything else. So the person who hit the ball most likely did so because they just decided to do it. By this logic, agents have the ability to affect the causal chain of the universe. They can make stuff happen on their own. But many philosophers find this idea untenable. Where would these free decisions, the ones that launch entirely new causal chains, come from, they ask? Are they simply random? What would compel an agent to make one decision and not another? And if you can answer those questions, if you can explain what would cause an agent to act, then well, you've just reinforced the position that actions are caused rather than free. The fact is, it's pretty difficult to find arguments that support libertarian free will. The best argument in favor of it seems to be that it just feels an awful lot like we're free. And libertarians argue that we shouldn't discount the legitimacy of our own personal subjective experiences. So if we feel so free, we should seriously consider the possibility that we are. That point has a certain intuitive appeal, but if you can't come up with an argument to defend your feeling, then good philosophical reasoning recommends that you reject it, or at least withhold judgment until you can get some evidence together. So now, let's see if the hard determinists can do any better. 18th century French philosopher Baron d'Holbach said that none of our actions are actually free. D'Holbach believed that everything that's happening right now is the result of an unbroken chain of events. Everything, he said, is the inevitable result of what came before, including everything that we do. Our actions are caused in the same way that, say, home runs are caused by bats hitting balls, or tornadoes are caused by warm air systems hitting cool air systems in the right conditions. This means that humans and our actions are just part of the physical world, bound by its physical laws. This belief is often explained through a view known as reductionism. Reductionism is the view that all parts of the world and of our own experience can be traced back or reduced down to one singular thing. So, for example, you see your mind as being capable of making free decisions. You think that what goes on in your head when you make a choice is not at all like bats and balls. But, well, mental states are brain states, or at least they're directly tied to your brain, and brain states are biological. And biological states are physical states. And the physical world, as we already said, is deterministic. There's just no room for free will in this picture. We think we're free, but we're not? And really, as scientific thinkers, why would we assume that we are? Why would we think that we're any different than everything else in the universe? What would make us so special? Libertarians are right that it's really hard to disregard the feeling of freedom. If I didn't choose to eat oatmeal this morning, why do I feel like I did? And what made me do it? But hard determinists say that the difference between the causes of human actions and the causes of physical events, like a bat hitting a ball, is that our actions have all sorts of invisible causes that happen in our brains. Specifically, when beliefs team up with our desires and our temperament, they say, you get a deliberate human action. Combine my belief that oatmeal is nutritious with my desire for healthy nourishment and the temperament that predisposes me to enjoy warm, carby comfort foods, and ta-da! You get oatmeal-y breakfast. Now, you might argue that those particular beliefs, desires, and temperaments might lead to any number of breakfast choices, cream of wheat maybe, or some granola. But if you dig deep enough, you'd find that there are factors that rule out those options, as well as every other option. Maybe I'm a little worried one of my fillings is coming loose, so I'm shying away from granola because it's too crunchy. Or I just don't think about cream of wheat very often. I mean, they don't have very good brand awareness anymore. What even is cream of wheat exactly? And the oatmeal is sitting right there in front of me. Or maybe I briefly think of making one of those quinoa breakfast bowls that are so hip right now, but my lazy temperament or my belief that I'm running late pushes me to choose the 90 seconds in the microwave option. See how it works? All you have to do is change one factor, a belief, a desire, or temperament, and you get a different outcome. Hard determinists argue that just because we can't pinpoint the exact factors that led us to an action, we could, in theory, isolate them if we knew enough about all of the beliefs, desires, and temperaments swirling around in our brains. So in this view, what we call decisions are really just the inevitable results of a bunch of mental stuff combining in just the right way. And maybe it feels free, but it's not. But hold up, isn't there some way out of this? Like, what if I have someone choose my breakfast for me? Or what if I fall back on randomness by, like, flipping a coin? After all, if I just flipped a coin, then it wouldn't look like that decision was made by beliefs, desires, and temperaments. But, well, no such luck, because even if I thought I chose randomly, my decision to flip the coin, or who I asked to pick for me, was just as determined as everything else. And guess what? If you're getting angry right now about me telling you that none of your choices are free, well, that anger was determined. If you're finding this whole topic confusing or boring, yup, still determined. You think you can freely choose to stop playing this video, but if you're still watching me, good news, that's determined too. Determinists believe that you can't help but feel and react the way you're reacting right now. You can think you're choosing to act in ways that conform to the character that you've selected and shaped for yourself, but even that choice is the result of all sorts of already determined factors about you and your place in the world. Hard determinism is tough to refute, and it has some really uncomfortable implications. It means the deeply held feeling most of us have that we actually make free decisions is just wrong. And the whole concept of personal responsibility is thrown out the window too. As Dolbach put it, we're all just cogs in a machine doing what we were always meant to do with no actual volition. Oedipus had to kill his dad and marry his mom. I had to eat oatmeal. And you just had to keep watching. You couldn't turn away. Today, we learned about libertarian free will and its counterpoint, hard determinism. Next time, we'll see if some middle ground can be found between determinism and libertarianism, and I sure hope there can be. Today's episode of Crash Course Philosophy was inevitably made...
All right. That's the first time, and I've been doing this. It used to be on Wednesdays or Tuesdays. Today is Thursdays. I've been doing this since 2014. And that's the first time for the first 31 minutes I didn't say a single word. The first time. Because this is an 8-week series on free will. It's about to get far harder. And you're about to get far more angry. And we're about to get far deep into the science of things. Okay? For those of you who have missed, y'all see Dr. Ferris tan the chat up, right? He's tan the chat up. He's been touring for Ebony said this is the 4th week. Is this the 4th week, Grace? Can y'all confirm this? This is the 4th week. I promise y'all 8 weeks. There's been getting higher and higher and higher. And then the first week, I just messed with all y'all was mad the first week. And Sandra was Antonio T. Smith Jr. You know, you understand it. And so, you know, she was
but never mad. Never mad.
Fair enough.
I've done time when I got mad. I don't plan on
you know what? You just said something right there. You and me both feel the same way about that. I know that's right.
I will.
I know that's right. No, push back. You will push back, Dr. Ferris. Push back hard, because everything here is about push back. And I'm gonna read this comment real quick. If I actually, Grace, if you can read his comment in the chat for me about the last one, the pushback.
Okay, if I were to push back, it would be 2 points. First, free will is necessary to make coherent sense of rationality. Second, quantum mechanics only renders physical stuff prospectively determined or contradictory based on perception. Yet mental events are not like that.
Okay, so the second part about quantum mechanics is not true, but I understand what he's saying. So we're gonna back up. I played all those videos, and we're going to talk about all of them. And I'm gonna do my best to spare you from mathematical equations. It's gonna be very hard though. It's gonna be very hard for me not to give you mathematical equations. So at the very least, I am going to tell you to Google a certain thing, equation, or principle. Can we agree with that? I need you to get that I am not the smartest person on this call. So I have to talk to multiple people. I have to talk to the smartest person on this call. I have to talk to the people who went, I ain't understand damn one of them videos, Antonio. I don't know what the
Listen,
hell. Okay, man,
that
you're gonna
people
have
is me. I am that people.
right
Okay.
there. I have to talk to Grace in them. Okay, I have to do that. And then I have to talk to everybody in between. The first thing I am going to do is I am going to make sense. Is this okay? I'm going to make sense of what was said. Is that okay? All right, make sense of what was said. And it's a lot. It is genuinely a whole lot, and I do apologize to you in advance. Essentially, Heinsberg uncertainty, a principle. This is not for y'all. This is for people like me in the audience. Okay, and it's not too many me's in the audience, but I have to do this. Heinsberg principle of uncertainty principle is in here. Genuine stochastic nature, wave function collapse, probabilistic nature, implications of free will, theoretical possibility of free will, role of consciousness, hard determinism. I'm going from memory. Quantum mechanics and classical physics, which do not disagree whatsoever. You cannot do classical physics, Newtonian physics, or quantum physics without one another. They all coexist. But if you're not someone like me, you just don't know this. Decoherence theory, the compatibilism in quantum context, and the whole all the doggone videos was an interdisciplinary approach to the thing. Our problem on this call is not going to be ego, although you're going to push back, and you should. Remember, y'all don't know what I think yet. I have yet to state what I think. Just every time you say something, I counter it. But now that we're in week 4, it is time for you to start seeing the world for what it mathematically is. Now, here's the pushback to that. Math has nothing to do with theology, nothing to do with philosophy. It has nothing to do with my human experience, has nothing to do. And my pushback to you would be, yes, it does. Yes, it does. Math has everything to do with anything. And if you are someone of religious, in fact, I'm only going to talk for another 2 minutes, and it's going to be an open discussion. If you are someone of the religious cloth, then the earth is the Lord's and the fullness of thereof, including math, including quantum physics. You're just going to have to deal with that. All right, you're going to have to deal with that. I am going to tell you, actually, I don't have to tell you. I'm choosing my words wisely here. It's not that I don't know what to say. I went through 4 different I am going to tell yous. I'm on my 5th one right now. Science and religion are not at war. We just like it that way. That was my 6th response. 1 through 5 were inflammatory. That was my kindest version of what I thought in my head, and you still didn't like that one either. Like when I said science and religion not at war, yeah, you still didn't like that. And that was like the best version that I can think of. when it happens. All right. Lastly, two things. This last is not bifurcated. It's actually two independent things. Number one, your job is to push back. That's your job. Your job is not to agree with a single thing I say, even though I didn't say anything. And there was only one video that leaned to hard determinism. The rest of those videos were science. If all you heard was hard determinism, that's a you problem. That's not an Antonio plays 6 videos, 5 videos, and that's what he said problem. That's a you thing. Okay, that's a you thing. When I start talking again, I'm going to bring up the Bible. You need to be very clear of this. And you're going to say, I don't like the Bible. And I hear you. Congratulations. Don't like it. I don't need you to like it. I need to prove something in the Bible. Is this clear? I got about 30 seconds left. The only reason I'm bringing up the Bible, Susan, is because it's older than this conversation. It serves my purpose. I need something older than this conversation and older than me so we can get out of subjectivity and get into objectivity. This is clear. Only one of those videos were leaning to a certain way, and that was the last one that I played, which has been the first one I played every other time. Every other video was simply objective facts. Is this okay? Okay, about 15 seconds left. When I bring up the Bible, and you're not going to like when I do it, I joke with Dr. Ferris sometime a while ago. Well, not too long ago, this week. I ain't like it. You're not going to like when I do it. It's not going to stop the fact that you got to deal with it. It doesn't stop the fact that you got to deal with it. Because guess what? It's in the Bible. It's in there. So you got to deal with it. Do you understand? All right. And I'm going to do a very scholar thing. I am far more a quantum physicist than I am a philosopher and a theologian. It is just what I do, and I almost got, I don't want to say it. He said, what's in there? And we have one of the world's foremost scholars, theological scholars on the call right now, Dr. Joshua Ryan Ferris, who is going to absolutely push back. I promise you he's going to push back. He has no choice but to push back because he's going to be on fire about this conversation. And he's going, please don't let me say nothing. Don't let me say nothing. Baby, just make, okay, fix me whatever you want, baby. Just fix me whatever you don't say nothing. And he going to say something because the class is designed to get you to say something. Right? Nobody is coming out of this unscathed. I told y'all that week 1. Remember that? I told y'all that week 1. Okay, that was 15 seconds over the 30 seconds. Discussion. We're going to take, it's 6:42. We're going to take 8 minutes of preliminary thoughts. Random, F all that. I don't like nam, you said. Now, those are technical terms, by the way. Okay, nam, and nam are 4 different technical terms. And I don't like none of that stuff. Or, you know what, Antonio, the more you've been... Okay, let's go. Deanna, we're going to start with you, and then you're just breaking the ice, and anybody can jump in. It doesn't matter. Go.
Oh, you said go. I'm sorry, I got...
You good?
You're in the background. So, I am empty-minded.
Okay.
Because I am going through a phase where I'm just open to learning anything because there's so much.
Fair enough. Okay. Somebody, no, you good. I'm gonna try to keep your comments short. Just your comments can be very long, just not in the next 7 minutes. After that, they can be very long. Go ahead.
And then when they were talking about You can't, like, they were talking about the past, present, and future, and they were talking about the alien.
That's 100% facts.
A part of me, and I've brought this up to you before, like, a part of me feels like, so you can't experience past, present, future at the same time, but you can experience past, present, and future self at the same time. Like, that's my kind of, because something in me is like, I can sit here and I can experience past lives, future lives, in the present at the same time. But then a part of me is like, but no, you can't, because
So everybody who disagrees with you is absolutely fundamentally categorically incorrect. If you agree with Deanna, which makes sense because you were taught this, that there's 9 planets and you cannot experience past, present, and future at the same time, you are categorically incorrect.
like it is strong in me. Like, I really feel like I can sit here, and if I can feel past lives, the present, and future lives all at once.
Okay, fair enough. Just know that right now I'm talking about past, present, future. I'm leaving the extra stuff you put on it and lives out of it. Okay, I'm leaving that out of it for now. It's going to come back up. But when I said you're categorically incorrect, you are. You are. Every last one of you.
Me? I am?
Yes, and anybody who agrees with you, because time does not work that way. And your cup of coffee, every molecule in your cup of coffee is behaving in a quantum mechanical effect. You don't have to agree with quantum mechanics, but if you don't, your credit card doesn't work, your CD player doesn't work, your Apple Pay doesn't work.
I believe.
You don't have to. You don't have to believe in it. This you using your debit card at Walmart is a quantum mechanical effect. Just so we're clear. Okay, go ahead, Phil.
It reminds me of the education of Oversoul 7.
Okay, so you acting like Deanna right now. Keep going.
Well, Oversoul 7, for those of you that are not aware of it, was written by Jane Roberts, who was channeling the entity called Seth. And based on that experience, she wrote a novel. And the novel is The Education of Oversoul 7. And Oversoul 7 is an oversoul that's manifested in 4 different lives at 4 different times, all at the same time. It's being educated by, and then Oversoul 7 is being educated by another soul above it.
And
it was one of the first books I gave you.
I was just going to say, you and Phil, I mean, I was going to say you, Phil, and Susan. Phil and Susan, you and Susan bought me that book and I read it and it's fantastic. All right, to answer Dr. Ferris' question, that what's in there, because I'm talking about the Bible, Romans 9, 10, 11 is what I'm going to bring up in 3 minutes. You have no choice. Thou havest no choices. Thus saith the Lord. Not like Adonai. I'm trying to stay away from Yahweh. Not like Adonai, but Curious. The Lord of the house. The Lord of the house. Anyway, okay, because I'm not the Lord. Y'all know that, right? Y'all know I'm not the Lord. You understand? All right, I'm not the Lord. All right, there you go. Look, yeah, but we done made Dr. Ferris hook up on multiple devices. He getting in his seat. All right. Yeah, just remember, he since he's been touring and doing keynotes, he's missed all the fun. Antonio T. Smith Jr. He's missed all the fun there. All right, he's missed all the fun. And Sandra was spitting some mad facts 2 weeks ago, too, though. Let me tell you something, right? Here's where we are. I got 2 minutes left. The reason why you're categorically incorrect, Liana, is because math exists. And math says you're wrong. And a microscope says you're wrong. Simple as that. We have, those of you who think that you cannot be 2 places at one time, or things don't happen in 2 places at one time, or things just don't happen that way, most of your technology today is because it happens that way. It is 100% because it happens that way. Grace, do me a favor. Go. No, Deanna, do me a favor. You got ChatGPT 4. Do me a favor. Share ChatGPT real quick. If y'all would, just allow me 2 minutes to go over my little 8-minute thing. I want Deanna to not Google. I want Deanna to go to ChatGPT 4. And Deanna, what I want you to do is I want you to type in, and I want you to be just say. I don't even want to say nothing. Let's be boring for a second. I don't even want to say nothing. Then okay, yeah, type that up. Now do me a favor. This is what I want you to do. I want you to type in Antonio T. Smith Jr. is teaching a class right now. And he says many of today's technologies are quantum mechanical effects. One of these, two of these quantum mechanical, many of today's technologies are quantum mechanical, just mechanic with AL, effects with an E, period. He mentioned 2 of them being credit cards, the magnetic strip on the credit card. There you go. He mentioned 2 of them being a magnetic strip on the credit card and the laser function of a CD player. Period. He says there's even more. I want to test his, even more, period. I want to test his theory. Period. Outside of these 2, please give me 20 more technologies that are due to quantum mechanics. And then hit enter. And what's some first words? No.
Antonio T. Smith Jr. is correct.
No. Read it, Grace, for me. You read so well.
Antonio T. Smith Jr. is correct in highlighting that many modern technologies rely on principles of quantum mechanics.
Transistors, semiconductors, MRIs, quantum cryptography, LEDs. Your little freaking light. You know how you know your TV is off because a red light is showing? That's a quantum mechanical effect. Solar panels, atomic clocks, quantum dots, tunnel diodes, flash memory, fiber optic. Antonio, what's fiber optic? AT&T. Everything AT&T universe is fiber to the premises, FTTP, electronic micro, ultrasound images. Every time you ever found out the gender of your baby, it was a quantum mechanical effect. Quantum sensors, positron emission tomograph, and so on and so on. Thank you so much. You can stop. PET scans is what that is. So right now, I'm about to bring up the Bible. But I want you all to know that do not doubt quantum mechanics because you're living it. If any, I would much rather you say, Antonio, we didn't have none of this until the alien spacecraft landed in 1941. I would further agree with that more than I agree with you're living in a quantum mechanical world, whether you want to or not. So now, in order to disagree, you gotta say, "Well, I don't trust ChatGPT, Antonio, and it ain't got nothing to do with me." Okay, it ain't got nothing to do with me. Now, keep it real with me. Those of you who will keep it real with me, how many of y'all looked at that list? Antonio is correct. Saw the list and went, "Damn, that was, wait a minute now." Okay. Okay.
Damn.
Okay. All right then. what I'm trying to present to you right now is not free will is bad, not free will is good, although this is a free will series. We're in week 4. I haven't even talked about free will yet. But today's topic is the illusion of free will and the illusion of time. We're going to have to talk, and you're not going to like it, but you're going to survive.
It just bothers me that free will is an illusion. Like,
well, it's not an illusion. Antonio is positing that it is illusion. Dr. Ferris is going to say the exact opposite, that it's illusion. I know me and Dr. Ferris know each other very well. Dr. Ferris is not surprised if Antonio comes out and say free will is not a real thing. He's not going to be surprised. Dr. Ferris, if you put in chat that you're going to be surprised, he's not going to be surprised if I say this. There's no way he's going to be surprised. We have too many conversations. We've been having conversations since 2014. He's not surprised. All right, see, I'm not surprised. He's not surprised if I come out as a hard determinist. What I'm going to do here now is talk about Romans chapter 9, 10, and 11. Scholars, did you see me, Susan? I changed my tone because this is a very sacred topic. This is, I'm going to bother you. You're not going, not you, Susan. I mean, y'all, right? I'm going to bother y'all. You're not going to like this. Look, yeah, I'll see Jerome. It's like, let me pick up my Bible. Everybody go to Romans chapter 9. If you were one of those Bible people, you need to go to Romans chapter 9. Now, Dr. Ferris will tell you, and Dr. Ferris, if you can get to where any background and you can talk, actually, I don't care if it's loud or not. As a scholar, you got no choice but to say something, or you go like lose your scholarship. They're gonna take the letters behind your name. You ain't got no choice but to say nothing. The men in black gonna come and take his letters, y'all. They're gonna take his letter. They're gonna take the D. You just PH. Okay, that's what you is. You PH balance.
They can't take my letters. No, they can't take my letters.
They can't take his letters.
It's like in martial arts. What my sensei always says is, you get your black belt. Next time you fail the test from an earlier test, I can't take it away from you, but you'll be in trouble. I can't take it away from you.
Can't take it away from you, be in trouble. All right, so we all know now, do not get in close combat with Dr. Joshua Ferris. That would not be wise for your appendages, and maybe your joints and anything that he can break in close quarters combat. You probably not want to do that. And if all else fails, if he comes to Texas, he could just shoot you. So that's what we do in Texas. That's what we do. Well, he's in Alabama. So
I'm in Alabama. We permit that too.
Yeah, I was simply to say it ain't that far.
Actually, I think we're a constitutional state now. So yeah, you don't even need a license anymore.
There you go. So you don't need one in Texas that vote either. All right, Romans 9, 10, and 11 are called by scholars. Dr. Ferris, you know what they're called. They're called the election chapters. That's what they're called. Are they calling it, to your knowledge, are they calling anything else? I'm deferring to him because he's like the guy.
Well, I mean, they're called election of individuals or election of Israel or
exactly
something like that. Yeah.
There you go. So the election is still in there. All right, Dr. Ferris, if you don't mind, I appreciate you for jumping on camera. If you don't mind, if you can tell them what election means in the context and from a hermeneutical perspective, you probably got to tell them what hermeneutics means now. It's not just about that. Yes. From a hermeneutical perspective, can you tell them what election means as Paul is using it?
Well, I don't know what Romans 9 means, but
10 and 11, all of them.
I mean, I think election is a common theme in the Old Testament where God
what a great
makes
statement.
a decision to select. I mean, he does select a people that he chooses as his own covenant people that he pours over, like a man, at least in that time, chooses his wife.
Yep.
God chose Israel to be his covenant people. Almost the bride language is almost present there.
Yeah,
in the Old
absolutely it is.
Testament, right? And
Yep.
so that's present. That language is present in Romans 9, picking up on the Old Testament story of God's choice of Israel as a special people that he has set apart for himself, a holy people that he plans to sanctify. His means, his covenantal means. And so it is with the Christian church, arguably.
Hey, I clap. That was well. He put on his suit and did that with y'all. Okay, he got behind the
Jerusalem.
podium.
The Jerusalem Bible calls it the place of Israel.
The place of Israel. Well, that makes sense. Okay, I 100% agree with Dr. Ferris because I am a Blackwellian. That's not the truth. That is the truth, but there's no such thing as a Blackwellian. He knows Dr. Blackwell, and Old Testament covenants runs the entire God's narrative to me. The entire narrative of God is driven by the four major covenants. I don't even say Old. I only say Old Testament when I'm around y'all. Old Testament's not a thing in my head because my degrees are in Jewish culture, and Jewish don't have Old Testament. The creation covenant, which is I'm adding one, the Abrahamic covenant, the Mosaic covenant, the Davidic covenant, and the new covenant. Is this okay right now? You don't have to get frustrated because I'm not talking about the Bible. I just need y'all to understand something because I'm about to piss a lot of people off. So right now, you just need to walk with me so we can then go, okay. Right, we just need you to get there so we can do this. Is that okay? Oh, my bad. Okay, Dr. Ferris, I got a private message, and they said, I want you and Dr. Ferris to speak English so I can understand. Dr. Ferris, you might need to rewind. You might need to rewind what God did in the Old Testament and why it's important. That's too funny. I love it.
English, okay. So so God chooses Israel as he just chooses Israel as his people that he makes into a holy nation.
And that's what we call the elect. We don't call it. Paul calls it that, and then now we call it that.
Antonio.
Yes, sir.
Antonio. I don't know who the prophet message was from, but as Dr. Ferris was speaking, I was thinking about where God makes it very clear that he didn't choose them because of their righteousness. He chose them because that was his choice. And he said, because of the others in the land who were evil, he chose Israel. Ain't because Israel was all that. Okay,
Jerome,
let's keep
you
it
on Antonio's side. Don't you say that, Jerome. You can't say stuff like that.
Well, come on, let's keep it 100. You know, they talk about speak English.
That is what it says.
Yeah, you know, because some of us, okay, you know, we got all twisted up. No, that we that's why Antonio, I can see why determinism and free will and all that can get all convoluted.
It is absolutely convoluted. It is absolutely
all convoluted. But guess what? I still believe that there's one God. Okay, and he made all this happen.
You know Sandra like when you talk like that.
Yeah,
you know Sandra like that kind of talk. Sandra and Susan, they like that kind of talk now.
Oh, I gotta say one more thing, Antonio. I gotta say one thing, and this is for everybody on the call. Okay, when I first met Antonio, and he started talking like he talking now, right? I gave him a fit. I'm gonna tell y'all right now. Like, no, give me King James, okay? Then you know we can communicate. This mofo right here took quantum physics and taught me Christianity. And I'm sitting there after he done it, and I'm sitting there going,
Thank you
what
so much.
the?
Thank
What
you so
the?
much. That's what I do.
After he did that, I said, you know what? I don't care what he said. I'm gonna listen to it. You see what I'm saying?
Okay,
See?
in fairness, hold on. So me and Dr. Ferris met 2013, 2014. He was my college professor. He still is my doctoral professor. Dr. Ferris, can you give them behind the scenes? I'm in class and he's killing my thesis. And I tell him, well, look, I don't want to write this thesis. This is stupid. I don't want this one. Let me pick my own. And then he helped me pick. I was trying to do some quantum physics. I don't want to say too much because I want him to get the rest. Dr. Ferris, to your early Antonio experiences, can you describe them? So you describe to them the students that you met. God, I have no idea what the hell he's going to say. I really don't. I have no idea what he's going to say. I really don't. Describe to them the students.
The student, you mean Mr. Smith?
Yes.
He was quite. He was a complex figure. He had multiple shades to him. He still does, doesn't he? He wanted to write on this ambitious topic that nobody would recommend writing on. Nobody else wrote on.
I got it. I'm going to pull it up.
Quantum mechanics and theology. A quantum mechanical argument for the existence of God or something like that. I can't remember.
You are 100% correct.
And I loved it. I mean, well, the paper needed, it needed some revisions, but I loved the ambition. I loved that he was willing to jump out in the deep end, in the abyss where he couldn't see anything. Nobody else can see. He loved it. I mean, he was just out there. He just went out there. He jumped in. It's like, well, you got you're not fearful at all, are you?
No.
Everybody else was fearful. But Mr. Smith jumped out there and did it.
Okay,
and there was a lot there. There was a lot.
It was a lot. So he killed the first topic. So I was like, okay, then. So I came back to him like 3-4 times later, and just so we're clear, I still got the paper.
I just told you got to be a little bit more modest. Look. When you're in academia, you got to be modest.
Yeah.
You got to denigrate yourself a little bit. Academics love self-denigration.
Yeah, they love that. They love
it.
Grace, read what's on the screen.
Einstein's general theory of relativity and how it inadvertently proves the existence of God. I'm saying that like Dre. That's what I'm reading like.
And what's the next line?
Antonio Teachman Jr.
What's the next line after that?
Dr. Joshua Ferris.
What class was he teaching?
Systemic theology.
What school was that?
Houston Baptist, now Houston Christian University.
What day and year was it?
December 2nd in the year of our Lord 2015.
I put all my documents in my iCloud. It ain't nothing for me to pull it up. I've been having the Apple because it was exactly what he said at first, and I was like, okay, then what I'll do it, I'll get some very. He was like, you got to be more specific, and you can't talk about quantum mechanics. It's too all right. Well, let me get Einstein then. I did that, and I was in the library pulling it all up. The point is, Jerome, will use quantum physics to teach you the Bible, and I've been doing it, Jerome, way before I met you. You hear me? I've been a heathen long time.
But I'm old, Tony. I'm older than you. Okay, I've been saved longer than you. You see what I'm saying? So somewhere along my journey, okay, I'm older than Dr. Ferris. So somewhere along my journey, somewhere I should have heard something about this from somebody. Okay,
fair enough.
Listen to me. Not until I met you with your crazy self.
Oh yeah.
But see again, now I gotta be more open. See.
Yeah. So me and Grace got an inside joke. Every time Grace called me crazy, I say, well, I mean, your God make mistakes? She go, no. All right, well, God made me. So, I mean, I guess.
You
I
blaming your
guess this is
craziness on the Lord. you
this
wait,
is
wait,
it,
wait, wait, wait.
my
Wait.
craziness is ordered by the Lord.
You chose to be crazy.
Hey, no, that's free will. All right, so
You
I'm gonna
chose.
make this very interesting. I'm gonna do four things. I'm gonna say four statements, theological statements. Hopefully, y'all pressure Dr. Ferris to address each one. Okay, and trust me, he has no problem. If I'm wrong, he's not gonna tell me that I'm right. He'll use some, he'll use some gentle words because he's, but if you can't become a PhD without learning how to argue with SAT words. It's part of the package. Okay, it's part of the package. They call it defending your thesis, right? It's part of the package. So I'm gonna put out four statements. So I'm gonna do that. But I also want to tell you something that I have not told you yet, and I'm going to tell you where I stand on free will and hard determinism, so we can make the next 4 weeks interesting. I don't believe in free will. It's very rare. It's very rare that I give you my opinion in these classes. Dr. Ferris is big on free will. We got a whole podcast together. I'll find out a little bit. I'm not. I don't believe in free will. I don't. There's reasons why. You don't know why yet. And I promise you, I won't tell you till week 8, but I will tell you, I actually told you today with all those videos. That's why I played them. Except for the fifth one. The fifth one didn't count. All those science videos that Grace was like, huh, what? Those videos, I did tell you the answer. So, okay, here we go. Statement. I'm trying to talk simply. The concept of hard determinism suggests that every event or state of affairs, including human decisions and actions, is the consequence of something preceding that. An event, a law of nature, something. I'll leave it as something right now. And I'm bringing my language all the way down because I want to give you hard mathematical terms, but I'm not going to do it. This view, Grace, maintains that free will is an illusion. Not hard to see that Antonio called the class that today. And all outcomes in this reality are predetermined and predestined, and these are causal laws. Have I lost anybody yet? I'm doing my very best to be simple. Okay, because I do not know how to talk about this topic in plain English. I do not know how. I just don't know how. This is where Dr. Ferris comes in. In the context of Christian theology, the Apostle Paul writes some letters, particularly Jerome, Romans 9, 10, and 11. Those are chapters. And they provide significant discourse on what is now called the doctrine of elections. Let's talk about it for a moment. If y'all don't mind, for those of you with your Bibles, Romans chapter 9, verses 11 through 13, if you don't mind, I shall appreciate you. Romans chapter 9, verses 11 through 13, and just know that I'm going to read from English Standard Version. I'm not going to do any other version. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Grace. You're doing good. English Standard. It's quite accurate. NASB, English, ESV, they sit pretty well. They sit pretty well. All right. When you go to verse 11, though they were not, hold on, let me give a little introduction for this, Grace. You can share the screen. Listen, y'all. Do not, because you're not, hold on, stop. You need to stop screen on, Grace. This is not a Bible lesson. I'm not using the Bible at all. I am trying to talk about objectivity, and there is nothing that I can do outside of deltas and giving you Heisenberg's mathematical formula. You're not going to get that. So I need to give you stuff that was already out here. And the closest thing I can give to you was 2,000 years ago with a peasant who was a scholar whose name was Saul, who went by Paul to the Greeks, talking that hot, spicy stuff. Is this okay? All right, cool. Share your screen, Grace. Romans chapter 9 begins with Paul's anguish over Israel's unbelief. This is called background. So I need to give background so Ina can understand. Ina, do you appreciate this background? I can't see you. Hold on, let me scroll to you. This is
Yes.
okay. I'm giving background so people go, what Bible? What? Okay. Tell me what it's talking. Okay, that's what I'm doing right now. Okay.
I love that.
Romans chapter 9, and Paul anguishes over Israel's unbelief, more specifically. And then he transitions into the discussion of God's sovereign election. Now, this is where Dr. Ferris comes in. He's about to talk in a second. He's gonna have to. He on the choice, but to talk. Paul asserts that not all who are descended from Israel are part of the true Israel. That's problematic. Jerome, you can find true Israel talk in Romans chapter 9, verses 6 through 8. I promise you, if you go to 6 through 8, you can find true Israel, but I'm going to skip that for right now. And what he does in 11 to 13, Susan, he illustrates with this example of Isaac and Ishmael and Jacob and Esau, emphasizing that God's choice is not based on human merit, but on his sovereign will, which is what Dr. Ferris accidentally argued earlier. Here's the text. Though they were not yet born and had not done either good or bad, in order that God's purpose of election might continue, not because of works, but because of him who calls, she was told the older will serve the younger, as it is written, Jacob I love, but Esau I hated. Romans 9, 11 through 13. Here's my I got two inflammatory things coming. Antonio is arguing, like many other scholars, including David Jeremiah, that this underscores the idea that God's choices are predestined and that they're independent of human actions, supporting the hard, deterministic perspective that human decisions and outcomes are ultimately governed by some divine decree. I stop now. Stop your screen, Grace. We gotta let the actual scholar talk. That's Dr. Ferris. Antonio, his student, is really just like, Antonio, after this call, you can't be my student no more. We gotta let the actual professor go. All right, you got it, Dr. Ferris. Be quiet.
Well, I think Romans 9 it's it's one of those exception passages that is difficult to interpret on its own terms, but it's certainly more difficult to reconcile it with other passages. But the hatred language, I think, is almost certainly not referring to hatred in the modern sense of hatred. I think it's just a comparison. So God loves his people more than he loves other people. He has favoritism, but I don't think it entails that that none of this was planned. None of this was planned. I want to say that. I didn't know.
No, he has no idea. And I was going to do this whether he was on the call or not. And when I saw the little pink J or whatever color Monique say that is, I was like, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't. I would be reticent to place. I mean, from a biblical theological standpoint, I would be reticent to place so much emphasis on Romans 9 in this particular passage, with the strong language that it uses to demonstrate a doctrine of hard determinism from Scripture. I'd be very reticent to do so. I think I think one could do it, and people have done it before, but I think my evidence for believing that this is actually the case is very low, I would say, interpretively. I mean, I would read that passage and I would come away with some skepticism that this is what's being yielded by the passage. This is what the passage is intending to say, that God himself. And then I mean, it raises the question what we mean by God. I'm not sure what you mean by God some days. If
That's fair.
If God is an agent and something like a person, then I think it's difficult to reconcile that with other passages that describe his loving willingness to include others even outside the fold, the fold of Israel. But I think if he's not a personal agent, then the hatred language kind of loses its weightiness, because we're not really talking about a person anymore. So that's just off the cuff. But your point is, I think your point is that you're making is that from this passage, the scriptures seem to teach that some sort of hard determinism is true, right? And by hard determinism,
all four that I have 4 points I bring up, I'm proving I'm arguing hard determinism.
Hard determinism, which
absolutely, and that hard determinism is coming from God, and then that flows to and through the actions of man even today.
Yeah. So no ability or responsibility for thoughts, beliefs, and actions, because
we haven't got there yet. I haven't actually brought that part up yet. But okay, so for those who are listening, me and Dr. Ferris, we do this all the time personally. So we got this. But just so you all can keep up, he introduced something into I haven't got there yet, and we don't know if I got there yet, but just know that that's not what was said, and just know that sometimes it's hard to tell what the hell a scholar is saying because scholars use scholar words. Okay, just okay. There we go. Keep going, Dr. Ferris.
Okay, so yeah, well, okay, we need to partition out some of this discussion. Yeah, so by hard, your 4 points do include hard determinism, right?
I'm about to. I gave you the first one. Yeah, and the first one was before Jacob was born. The God told Jacob's mother the destinies of Jacob and Esau before they ever took breath. And I'm calling that hard determinism. Unfortunately for you, then you're gonna have a hard time not calling that hard determinism, because even if you say God's sovereignty, that goes back to determinism, right? It goes back to determinism. So I'm calling that. And let me just say this before I get to Dr. Ferris. I told y'all, I told Grace, I hate everything I'm saying. Remember I told you that? I hate everything I'm saying. I pastor church for the unchurched. This means that I'm trying to get people not in the elect to the elect. All right. Go ahead, Dr. Ferris. So just want to point that out. Like I am a walking contradiction. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, well, so well, I think I guess it depends on what model of providence we're working with. I mean, if we're talking about destiny, then we're talking about how providence just means how God orders or orchestrates the world in the events that are within it, including creaturely events. And there's a multiplicity of ways he could do that, at least conceptually.
Right.
Doesn't know true, but there's multiplicity of ways that he could make determinate that Esau would end up this way, or that say Judas would betray Jesus.
Right.
And they
That
don't.
here's another one that I want to throw in there, because people say black people are cursed because it's in the Bible, and that's wrong. But that Ham would be cursed is another one of those that you're bringing up.
Oh yeah. That's a common set of interpretations in history.
Absolutely.
But I would say that there's different models of providence by which God can determine or make determinate the destiny, and state that Esau will end up this way, Judas will end up this way. And certain people groups in the Old Testament in particular, when he describes their destiny in condemnatory terms, he does so based upon certain ways in which he orders the world. And it could be based upon his knowledge of the future, or it could be based upon his knowledge of the people, and somehow he knows that they will act in a certain way that will condemn themselves, right? There's all sorts of models.
You're moving to week 8 for me, because that's my real answer lies in what you're saying right there. So let me just Antonio Smith up what he's saying real quick. Listen, what Dr. Ferris is saying is, Antonio, I see your point. I even see that you have a valid point, but you're making assumptions that Paul was making that point, and you're making assumptions that Paul is arguing there's only one modality, one method of God's providence, God's sovereignty. Dr. Ferris, did I misspeak? Did I put words in your mouth, or is that a good summation of what?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. That's a good summation. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I get it. He's saying, I hear you. You got a valid point, Antonio. However, your argument is insanely incomplete, because Paul's not arguing God only has this argument for sovereignty. Paul is not, there's nowhere in that text is any modality. Oh, I'm sorry, 2 big words. Nowhere in that text is there any explanation of how God is doing things. And maybe, Antonio, since God can see in the future, God just knew what was already going to happen. He actually stayed there for a little bit. Everybody get that now, since I hooded it up? All right, there you go. Everybody's like, thank you so much, Antonio. Thank you so much. All right. Number two. Romans 10. Firstly, let's at least respect that I'm not making. Let me say it in another way. Let's at least respect I'm pulling up your text. I could be bull jiving you, pun intended. Me and Dr. Ferris, don't worry about it. Y'all find out later. I could be bull jiving.
Good word.
Yeah, it's a good word. But I'm actually bringing substance in text. Okay. All right. Romans 10. Jerome, Romans 10. So what you need to do, everybody, if you have your Bibles and you like this kind of stuff, Romans 10 verses 16 and 17 is what I'm about to bring up. Romans 10 verses 16 and 17. This is the paradox of belief and unbelief. Allow me, Dion, to use a lot of colloquialisms, because I'm attempting to speak to the masses. Trust me, when me and Dr. Ferris are together, I speak very differently. Okay, very, very differently. Romans 10 addresses the paradox. What is paradox? Means two seemingly things that don't go together, but somehow they do. Okay, that's what paradox means. Romans 10 addresses the paradox between divine sovereignty, ruleship of human responsibility. Dr. Ferris actually just brought this up. He partially brought it up. Paul emphasizes that salvation is available to all who come to the Lord. I hate this verse, by the way, just so we're clear. He does that in Romans 10:13. I don't hate the verse. I just wish it wasn't in the Bible. Let's stop the screen real quick, Grace. I just wish a lot of things were not. Let me I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this. There's a lot of things in the Bible I wish wasn't there, like the rapture. I really wish the rapture was not in the Bible. There's so many Christians that have a rapture theology. It's the only time Paul ever says it. He says it nowhere else in any of his theology, not in early Galatians, not in the last Romans. It's just there's no fundamental theology of the rapture. He just says it and then he leaves it with no explanation. But Christians have made scholarship and practices over the movies over the rapture. And it's like 3 verses that Paul ever talks about. Dr. Ferris, if you don't mind, did I just make a mistake when I just said anything that I just said? If you don't mind.
No, you're just representing your own perspective on problematic passages, or at least challenging passages that have been abused or misused in various
There you go.
history.
There you go. There you
I
go.
mean,
Okay.
if your stronger claim is that you don't like what's in the Bible because there's things that are untrue in the Bible, now that's a different.
No, that's heretical.
You
No,
are
I'm not
making
doing
that.
that. Yeah, I'm not doing
No,
that.
you were.
Yeah. I'm doing the New Covenant theologian. I'm struggling to hold the continuity of the Old Testament and the discontinuity of the New Testament together. That means I'm struggling I believe everything is the same, but I also recognize there's some sort of difference going on. And
Yeah.
I have the fortitude or the balls, would be a hood word for that, to struggle holding those two together. You need New Covenant theologians. Half of your understanding comes from people who struggle to hold the two. I would argue that the entire write-up of the Cities of God by Augustine is a dude holding 2 things together. If you don't understand, here's what happened. Well, maybe not Germans per se, but I'll just say heathens the way they would have said it back then. Overthrow Rome. There we go. Overthrow Rome. And like everybody's like, wait a minute, Rome fell and Jesus ain't come back. Wait a minute. Is the Bible real? Why? Because Rome ran the world, Rome got overthrown, and Hebrews did not take Rome's place. And what does the Bible say? That Hebrews will be kings and queens and take Rome's place. So then Augustine goes, wait a minute, y'all, just hold up. There's 2 different kingdoms. It's the kingdom of man and the kingdom of God. Me and Dr. Ferris will explain that differently. Hopefully he respects my crude explanation of that to you masses. Anyway, Romans 10, Jerome. Romans 10, verses 16 and 17 reads. You go ahead. I know I didn't say nothing, but go ahead though. Oh, you made her cut her camera on. You can't keep mentioning Jesus, Antonio, and I'm not gonna say nothing. Come on, hit me with it, Sandra. You're so my favorite person. You really are.
I'm glad because God sent me to you. Treat me right, you're gonna be in trouble.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
But what's being discussed is interesting because there's no what's that word? No solid and or concrete matter that would harness both of those theories at the same time, right?
Fair enough.
Everything is being concocted mentally and emotionally through people who were not around when the worlds were made. They weren't around.
I'm certainly one of them, huh? I wouldn't.
So there's a time that when, regardless of what happens, it's just like parenting. People go beyond the mother having the baby and say, well, what probably happened was. So these are things that are continuing to come up. And being a mother, that is one of the perfect ways to give the example of what God is, right? Because the mother gets to say, rather, I'm going to love this baby or I'm not. The mother gets to say, rather, a child is going to play with that child or not. There's a lot of things that comes into play with that. But the big thing is that everything that is being said in the Bible is not necessarily orchestrated by God. Why?
That's
Because
dangerous to say that, though. That's
it
dangerous.
is dangerous to say that only because of the belief of what people may think.
Oh, okay. So you're not saying, okay, so what you're actually saying is every interpretation from
Right.
the Bible. You're not saying what is said. Now here, I'm not on either side, but that's not what you just said. See, if you say everything in the Bible is not God breathed, you're a heretic. You get burnt on the cross. You can't say that. Right. Heretical means outside of orthodoxy. Orthodoxy means here's the basic teachings that Trace is supposed to understand. So what Sandra just did was just use a word that she didn't mean to. She meant interpretation. When she said our belief, she's saying what Antonio is doing with the Bible, or God ain't necessarily co-signing that. That's what Sandra is saying. You get me? All right. I just wanted to
This is
make
why I
sure that
love
ain't
you.
nobody.
Thank you so much.
I
Thank you
got you.
so
I
much.
got you. You know,
What would
that's
I
the
do without you? You feel me?
that's the whole
Saying
point of
Antonio
actively
Pinocchio.
listening, right? All right, then. So you get it, and trust me, scholars will crush you for not saying the right words. All right. So to move on from this, I put the rest of them in the chat. So I won't mess with Dr. Ferris too much longer. So we only got a few more minutes left, but I put the rest of them in the chat. I put the rest of them in the chat. Say he's going to look at them, make comments and stuff, and then we'll read his comments and then we'll open him back up to the mic to show. So let's move on now for the last 30, 45 minutes to y'all. Antonio, what the hell just happened here? Nobody understand what you and him just did on. I mean, guys, know the scooter beep, 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 what the beep y'all talking about? Is that about right? Come on, raise your hands, y'all. If you could just raise your hands and just there you go. I don't know what the beep y'all talking about. All right. Here's what we're talking about. Dr. Ferris is saying that I'm kind of simple. I'm going to crudely simplify what Dr. Ferris is saying. It's not fair. So let's call it a theme. Can we call it a theme? So you said, what did Martin Luther King talk about at the March of Washington? I have a dream. That's not really what he talked about. That was the theme of what he talked about. There was more of what he talked about, but we can agree that the theme was I have a dream. Is this okay? So I'm going to I have a dream, Dr. Ferris. It's crude, it's unfair. He said a whole lot more, but just allow me, for sake of time, to sum up his talk in 4 words. I have a dream. Yeah, 4 words. Okay, can I do that? All right, good. Dr. Ferris is saying God gave us free will. I need the 5 words. Sorry. I need the 5 words. I need the 5 words. God gave us free will. Cool. I would even argue that Dr. Ferris is saying because we are of the same substance as God, is what I would argue. He didn't say that, but I feel like homeostasis, same substance, is part of his argument. Let him respond to that because we can't keep saying a man name like that without letting him respond. Dr. Ferris, I say that you said that God gave us free will because we are of the same substance as God. So we have free will. The same way God has sovereignty, we have sovereignty on the planet because God constitutionally, biblically, that's not a word, gave us sovereignty, which is fair because that's what happens in Genesis chapter 1 and 2. And yeah, there's a Greek word for that, akon, that God told Diana to rule with him and not as him. And the reason why man gets in trouble is because man keeps trying to rule as him instead of with him. Now that was fly. You can say what you want. All right, Tracy got that one. All right, okay, go ahead, Dr. Ferris.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be reticent to say that we have the same nature as God or the same substance. Certainly the same substance. We're not the same as God, but we have a similar nature, maybe a homoousios, similar nature, maybe in the sense that we have personal attributes that God has, if God in fact has them. We have personal attributes in the sense that we have a perspective, we have conscience, we have moral responsibility based upon the fact that we do have conscience, and we have the freedom to make choices. And if God has the freedom to make choices and we're created in the image of God, then there's an analogy between us and God, at least where God is the example of what we are.
And even of those you who don't believe in the Bible, believe in what he just said right there. Because if you give an offer to an ancestor, if you believe in what he just said, that something about you is something that is alignment up there. Therefore, I share in the up there-ness. Okay, keep going. That was I platonically gave y'all an explanation what he said. Keep going, Dr. Ferris.
Yeah, so I think if we're going to make sense of if we're going to make sense of the interplay between what God is doing and what we are doing, then we have to make sense of it by way of some kind of personal analogy. If we have, and what do we think of when we think of persons? What are the basic characteristics of being a person? I think some of the basic characteristics include these old ideas that we are conscious, intelligent beings of some sort, right? That we have conscience, that we have
That was that conscience is what he just brought up there. Okay, keep going, keep going. I gotta make sure that my graces understand. You know, that if you swat a fly, the fly move, that's conscience. Okay, all right. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, and we have freedom of the will. We have free will. We have the ability to choose otherwise.
That's consciousness. That's what he just explained there. Two different things. Flies are not choosing to fry chicken tonight.
That's right. Yeah, they don't. That's right. They're not.
Keep going.
That. Yeah, so we have freedom of the will, and I think if we're going to make sense of some of the passages in Scripture where God makes choices, then we have to do so by way of this analogy that we have with God, that there is some sort of analogous relationship between who God is and who we are as human beings. And so much of what the Scriptures say we can't make sense of without these facts, these basic facts that we are intelligent, we have consciousness, we have moral ability, we have moral responsibility, and we have the freedom to choose otherwise, to choose either or. So when we are confronted with a decision, very basic, very crudely, there's some level at which we have the ability to choose otherwise. We can choose X over Y, or we can choose chocolate ice cream over vanilla ice cream, or whatever our preferences are. Yeah, I know, preference, of course. But preference doesn't make determinate my choice. Nonetheless, there is still
that's for bull jiving and brilliance. My bad.
Yes, that's right. Yes, are we really choosing? I mean, well,
that's what I was about to say, but is it really free will? Because let me shut up. Keep going.
No. The rest of this call is about to be exactly what you're doing. So no. You go ahead. Dr. Ferris is still talking. Yeah, y'all go back and forth. This is what it is. This is what it is. I took advantage of him.
No, that's fine. I mean, preferences is often used as a way to show that, or try to illustrate that, in fact, our freedom is is an
Not-
illusion.
yeah, exactly.
Because our preferences are already conditioned.
Right.
And if we always do what we preferentially want to do, then we're really not free, are we? So I think, well, how quickly do I jump into this? So I'll say
Take your
this.
time. I plan on going over 30 minutes anyway, so that's why I played 30 minutes with the videos. Take your time. No, you muted yourself, Dr. Ferris. Oh, that you did it on purpose.
Sorry.
My bad. No,
Yeah, so I would say that. Sorry about that.
No, you get my daughter jump on this joint all the time. You ain't got to. How many times y'all heard me say, my daughter don't care nothing about y'all. She is a daddy's girl. She don't give a bleep about y'all. She want her daddy, and she want her daddy right now. Okay.
That's right. So I would say, well, so we've talked about some of the biblical interpretive issues,
Right.
and we can go back to that. We could talk about the different models of God's sovereignty and how much power he has over what happens in the world and how much power he has over us. And whether or not Romans 9 conclusively demonstrates that, in fact, he has this sort of control over every minutia of world events, natural events, and even our own decisions. So we can come back to that, but I would say that free will is not an illusion, because I think for the simple fact that we actually believe that we can have true beliefs. If we can have true beliefs, I think that renders determinism invalid as a theory of how causes work in the world. So there's a famous quote. Maybe this will make some sense. It's just, and we could spell this out, and we could look at the different aspects of this and spell it out in an argument. But there's a famous quote from Joseph Haldane. He stated that, quote, "It seems to me immensely unlikely that mind is a mere byproduct of matter," or we could exchange the word matter out for divine choice. "For if my mental processes are determined wholly by the motions of atoms in my brain, I have no reason to suppose that my beliefs are true, and hence I have no reason for supposing my brain to be composed of atoms," end quote. So what he's saying there is that if our causal choices are choices are determined, if they are determined by preceding material events or processes, if our mental processes are actually determined by previous material events or material processes, then I would have no reason to believe that the beliefs that I have are true. And if I have no reason for believing that the beliefs that I have are true, then I have no reason for believing the fact that my choices are actually composed by previous material events, or let's call it divine events.
That's a good argument too. And it would completely destroy rationalism in itself. What's the point of being rational of something that's predetermined?
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, fair
That's
enough.
right. What's the point of
Fair
being? Yeah. A strong form of rationalism. Yeah. That's right.
Mm-hmm. No, you keep going. I'm just jumping in there as the peanut gallery and bringing everybody else up to what you said.
Yeah. So did that quote make sense? I mean, I can read it again or talk about it, but I think the basic idea is this. Look, if I make a choice to do something, and my choices to do something are determined by previous events, whether it be material, biological, or let's say divine, whatever God is, then the whole means by which I come at these beliefs, or I come to believe that something is the case that it is, like my mind is determined by material events. The whole means by which I arrive at that is undermined by the fact that it's arrived by this sort of deterministic cause, which renders that I have no reason to believe that the beliefs that I have are actually true.
How could they be if somebody put them in your head deterministically? It'd be impossible for them to be true, because how could something be true when it didn't come from you? Right? A lot of people say that. Now that's subjectivity, that's hypermodernity, big time, but nevertheless, there's a lot of truth in that, right? If you're not the origin, if your free will doesn't let you originally find the truth of origin, then what is truth? Then what is truth? Yeah, keep going, keep going.
Yeah, I think the idea is that it's also that the processes by which I come to arrive at beliefs about the world are undermined because not only do I have no knowledge of the source of those beliefs, so I don't have actually access to them. So it's hard to know whether or not anything that I believe is true because I have no access to the truth. The truth itself, whatever that is generated by the process itself, and the process is determined outside of my control. So I have no control to believe that one thing is true or another thing is true. I have no control. So there's a source problem, as you say. There's also a control problem.
That's facts.
Is this getting a little too heady?
It's definitely too heavy for them. I'm going to let me say a few things here. Who knows the formula for force? Okay, go ahead, Otis. Okay, I read his lips. We didn't hear you, Otis. You probably no, you got yourself muted. I don't think you ever unmuted. Okay, no, we still can't hear you. You probably don't have it plugged in. But he said mass times acceleration. I read his lips. He said mass times acceleration. That is true. Mass times acceleration is force. And since this is not what Dr. Ferris is saying, this is another crude example of Dr. Ferris is saying, but I'm simplifying it for Grace and Antonio, because Grace and Antonio don't know what the hell y'all talking about. Okay, all right.
Me too.
Dr. And Deanna. Dr. Ferris is saying just because something is a formula, Antonio, don't mean it's predetermined. Did y'all get that? Just because y equals mx plus b doesn't mean that slopes have to be 87 degrees or something. They can be 90. A slope can be a 90-degree slope, Antonio. It could be a 60. He's saying, okay, Grace is getting this. He's saying, Tracy, you should be getting it. He's saying there's so much free will a slope can be in that. If a circle is 360 degrees, y'all listening? Then every point, so a flat line is actually 180 degrees. Can we do that? Can we do that? Here's the deal. Let me help y'all out. The only reason you don't understand what's happening in this conversation is two reasons. Two reasons. Reason number one is because it's a new language. Reason number two is because your programming said, this is how I respond to new languages. And both of those are facts. I'll say it again. There's only two reasons why you don't understand what's happening right now, because it's a new language. You ain't supposed to understand a new language. This is why you only speak one, because every time there's an opportunity for you to learn another, you do what you're doing now, and you have an adverse reaction to that.
So I have a question.
And money is a language. You hear me? Okay. Dion and Tracy.
All right. So what you're saying is that, we have that slope or we have that circle, and anywhere on the point of that circle, we can go. So that's our
That's what
free
Dr.
will.
Ferris is saying.
Okay.
Antonio is saying, but it's a circle, so you can't go
Right.
outside the circle.
Exactly. That's where I
That's
was
what
going to go.
Antonio is saying.
And that's where I'm going to go. So what you're saying is, you got that circle and you can go anywhere within that circle, but isn't there other circles? Can't we jump and go to another circle? I mean, there's circles all around. There's slopes everywhere.
And then
So
Antonio would say, when is the last time you jumped into Susan's circle? Because as long as you're Susan, you can't be Dion.
right.
That's what
Okay.
Antonio is saying.
Okay.
Dr. Ferris is saying, well, yeah, but there are many things that I can do to become Susan and understand Susan. Now, again, this crude example, he's not actually saying this. I'm just bringing it down to everybody else. Well, I have to say this when there's scholars in the room. They'll be like, hey, what I say, I know that ain't what you said. I know that's not what you said. I'm just bringing it down. You get it? Susan is not allowed to be Aiden.
Right.
But Aiden can do many of things with the help of psychology, science, empathy. Know Susan better than anybody on the planet. Become Susan. Antonio is a prolific ghostwriter because Antonio can become Grace and speak as her. And Dr. Ferris would argue Antonio is exercising existential free will when he does that. And then Antonio will argue, but I still had to become another human.
Good. I got a question.
Okay.
Ask it. Oh, I'm
Okay,
just asking for a friend.
I got all three of y'all. We're going 30 minutes over anyway.
I'm just asking for a friend what existential was.
It's my bad. I'm trying not to use these big words, but I can't help it. Have you read an email from me? There's just big words everywhere. I can't help it. I can't help it. It's just existential is just a whole X. Anytime you hear X, it means out of. So out of stential. In this particular case, it's just out of the norm, way out there, right? Exodus. All right, there you go. Okay. Dion, back to you, then to Tracy.
Okay. So in the Susan, I can't be like Susan, but
you can't become Susan.
Become Susan, right? I can't become Susan, but I can make that circle on top of where Susan is and be almost like her, but in a different area.
And Antonio would then say, and that circle never becomes that circle, no matter how much you put that circle on top of it.
Right. It's not
Dr.
that circle.
Ferris would say, but the mere fact that you get to put those circles 100% on top of a circle. Dr. Ferris and Plato are in full alignment.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Antonio and Aristotle are in full alignment in this particular case. Okay. But some of y'all don't know what that means. Just Aristotle was like, I'm gonna throw up these fingers. This is not the finger I want to throw up though, Susan. Okay, it's the other finger. Okay. Dr. Ferris was like, thank you so much. I mean, not Dr. Ferris. Aristotle was like, thank you so much, Plato. You now, I'm gonna do my own thing. Is what Aristotle did. Okay. That's not true, but it's actually so much truth to that. It really is. Aristotelian is not necessarily Platonic.
Like Aristotle.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Tracy, go ahead. Dion, you jump back in there when you want to.
So based on what Tracy was saying, I'm saying that, and I'm following everything that you all, both of you are saying.
But you got degrees and stuff. You're like a teacher with degrees. Of course you're following.
Yeah, get the hermeneutics and all that stuff too. So, but this is, and so what I'm trying to point out is, even if you do choose to be in another circle, or you do choose to that slope to go that direction, or you feel like the formula was there, but to me it's already determined on what's going to be the outcome. It's already determined on what the
So
choice is going to
what
be. So is it
Antonio would
really a
say right there,
choice?
what Antonio would say right there is your entire question is highly inappropriate because it can never happen. That's what Antonio would say. Your question was intelligent. Dr. Ferris is going to say, okay, I see your point, but what about this? Antonio is going to say, if you change two hydrogen atoms and move one hydrogen from an oxygen, it's no longer water. Antonio says when an electron moves to another nucleus, another thing somewhere, then that's not two circles on top of each other. We only do that in art. Fundamental mechanics of nature agrees with Tracy that if an electron, if you look at the periodic table, if you take one electron from the periodic table, it ceases to be that element. It literally, not a free will, it by determinism becomes something different.
Else. Right.
There
That's
you
my
go.
point. And
There
so
you
with
go.
that being said, it's not that it's a free will or a choice, because even if you feel like you're choosing it, I believe based on learning and based on perspective that everything has already been determined on what you're going to do, what you're going to be, where you're going to go. And so you can say, oh, well, I chose to do this. Yeah, but did you really choose it? Or was it already in there that that's the way you were going to go? Oh, well, I choose to make this moral decision because I know earlier we were talking about, well, that's a lot of the physical and the material, not necessarily the mental, but isn't it really kind of both? Because your mental state, your mind, what you're going to think, what you're going to believe, what you're going to do kind of was already set up from birth. Because if we go back to scripture, which we were using a lot of scripture, there are several scriptures that
That's only
talks
because Dr.
about
Ferris,
how the
I
plans have
totally took
already been
advantage of
laid
Dr.
out for
Ferris.
you. And I have
Right.
a plan for you to be this, and this.
That's
And
right.
the plan was already predetermined before you were even, when you were formed in your mother's
All over the
womb.
Bible. All over the
It
Bible.
says that that's already laid out. So no matter what you feel like you are choosing, are you really choosing? Because it's already been mapped out for you. There's a scripture that says we're pretty much, it's all, the beginning to the end has already been laid out. We're just pretty much
Alpha
walking
and
it out.
Omega. I am the Alpha and Omega. Right.
So
yeah,
those are my
Tracy's
points.
right. No, those are I got you, Deanna. Those aren't just points. Those are like fire points, although I think they're fire because you're agreeing with Antonio, you understand. But you made me realize that I should probably tell y'all what I think in week 8, and then we should argue. I should bring week 8 to now, and then we should argue what I think for the next 4 weeks. That's what Tracy made me realize. That sounds more fun. What you think, Tracy? Instead of saying what I actually think and then running.
You just want to start some mess. That's what you
That's what I love to do. I'm an intellectual. I genuinely have orgasmic experiences when people disagree with me. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love it. I love it. But a reason I love it is because I'm not an a-hole. I know how to listen.
No, that's debatable. That's real debatable.
Well, that's fair. That's fair too. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. Okay, you got to give me 1 minute. Does Susan like berries? Or does Susan like what God made grow out the ground? This is what Tracy was saying. This is what Tracy was saying. This is what Tracy was saying. Tracy was saying, did Susan choose to like berries? The berries just come out the ground, and that was her choice. You're going to like these berries or no berries. Look, Susan got berries with her right now. I can't believe I brought up berries and she eat them. So y'all get the same thing I did with Dr. Ferris. I hooded up his argument. I'm hooding up Tracy's argument. Tracy is saying, yeah, Grace like berries. But what else is she gonna like? Berries wasn't her reality. It's fair. No, it's fair. Because if Tracy only grew up in a community of berries, then Tracy gonna like berries.
Antonio, and
Yes,
this
sir.
is this piggybacks on what Tracy said too.
Yeah.
The what I see is that we are carbon-based creatures.
Fair enough.
Okay.
That means something.
And
that has meaning behind it when you say that.
And based on what I read in the Bible,
Okay.
we were created in God's image. On this little journey I've been on, okay,
Right.
here's where the conflict comes in. We carbon-based individuals try to take this infinite God who is neither time. We're in time, he's not in time. He's the Alpha and the Omega. He's the first and the last. He created us, and then now that we are with our minds and thinking, we bring him down with us. And as we think, we say he's next to us. No, he's not next to us. Okay? That's the problem. We put him on earth with us and walk with him, and then we try to say, well, it's predestination, it's free will, blah, blah, blah. God is God all by himself. Okay? And that and I'm listening and I'm learning, but that's one of the problems we have.
You're definitely arguing a Hebraic view of God, a top-down view of God, and you're saying, I don't like this Greek view of God, to where God is man, is what he's saying, right? You get it? Remember, Greeks looked up to the sky and said, Zeus looked like us. And Jerome was like, we will not say that at all. We will not say that. We will not make God man. God made man. Man didn't make God. And Greeks are saying man made God. This is what Jerome is saying. Is that cool, Jerome? Am I putting?
And that is cool. And within the realm of our living, he gives us a choice. But he already knows what's going on because of who he is.
Fair enough.
See, we keep trying to figure out the way he thinks. He says, that our thoughts are not his thoughts. Our ways are not his ways. We trying to figure him out. He already know what we about. Come on, man.
So I'm going to say two things. Deanna, you're going on 30 seconds. Grace, remind me to come back with why me and Dr. Ferris get along and the difference between me and Dr. Ferris. It's very intriguing. It's very intriguing. And then also remind me to come back to Jerome and the Bible. Remind me to come back to both of those. Deanna, go ahead.
Okay. So if I'm understanding both of your positions correctly,
okay,
you are saying that
I'm Baptist. I'm saying Dr. Ferris has the right to be wrong. Shame on him.
I am the circle of Diana.
Right.
I am the circle of Diana. So I cannot be the circle of Susan.
Has it worked for you yet? Have you become a white lady?
No,
it's a simple question. I mean, I'm just asking. Have you become a white lady? Has it worked for you yet?
No.
I would love to be a white
not
lady.
At all.
But it's not worked out for me yet. Adam's apple is in the way, Susan. It's just Adam's apple is in the way. Keep going, Deanna.
So I don't
read all these scriptures too that Dr. Ferris has put out.
So I don't have the free will of being the circle of Susan.
That's correct. And that's Antonio.
But as the circle of Diana, from what Dr. Ferris was saying, I have the free will to choose everything that I want to choose within the circle of Diana.
Dr. Ferris is absolutely saying that. That's the one time, that is the one time that I can say, yes, he is actually saying that. He's not only saying that, but he is absolutely saying that.
So technically, there are physical and essential limitations.
Okay, I spoke for him. Go ahead.
What am I saying? Wait, what am I saying?
Say what you said again, Deanna. He's like, wait, we gotta wait a minute. This is recorded. Wait a minute.
So go ahead, Antonio is saying that I don't have the free will to be Susan. I don't have the free will to be the circle of Susan because I'm the circle of Diana. But what you're saying is I have all the free will in the world within the circle of Diana. Wherever I want to be on the axis that's within the circle of Diana, I have the free will to choose whatever I want to within the circle of Diana. But I don't have the free will to choose within the circle of Susan because I'm not the circle of Susan. I don't have that free will to be the circle of Susan
What?
because we are not.
So
the
you
same.
going back to me. So basically, what she's saying is she has her free will to choose what she wants to do with her free will. Is what she's saying, Dr. Ferris. And I said that
Within the
is what you're saying.
constraints, within the constraints of the Diana circle.
Well, he has restraints because he's like a Christian. You know, Christians don't just walk around in anarchy. You know, so the restraints are implicit with his Christianity. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Ferris. Do you agree that Diana can do whatever she decides she wants to do within whatever orthodoxy constraints there are?
I would certainly say that there are orthodox constraints. I guess that's one way of putting it. Physical constraints, chemical constraints, psychological constraints.
Yep.
Her choices are limited to, of course, her own being as an individual, her own individual being. They are limited. So I would further say, I mean, this, no, I don't want to complicate this, but there could be choices that are constrained by your own internal dispositions, psychological dispositions. This gets to, if that's true, this still
everybody here agrees with that. That these are the black sheep that agree that they messing their own lives up. That's what they're here for. They agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, well, so if that's true, that would seem to rule out determinism.
It would.
But the more fundamental point, I think this is where things get. My claim is actually quite minimal and basic, in that at some level there is the ability to choose otherwise. There's the ability to choose otherwise, or to refrain from choosing, which is a kind of choice itself, right?
That's most certainly a choice. That inaction is most certainly an action. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. If y'all decide not to, now he's not saying that you're gonna. I'm gonna lead this to destruction for theatrics, but that's not what he's saying. If you drive on the highway and say, I'm gonna refrain from driving anymore. I'm just gonna keep my foot on the pedal. You let go of the steering wheel. That inaction is an action. Wherever that road leads you, you're not gonna follow that road no more. You're gonna run into something. This is what Dr. Ferris is saying. He's right. Now he didn't give that negative connotation to it. I just did that because y'all understand negative connotations. Okay, that's why I did that. But he didn't do that. And he's not arguing that inaction leads to negative connotations. Because if you ask me to go sell dope and I take it in action, then that's a good connotation. You understand? Connotation means the feeling of a thing. Denotation means the definition of a thing. Okay. All right, go ahead, Grace. Can this transcript be emailed to me, please? I told Teacher Virginia. I think everybody will this call to listen. Let me before Grace goes, let me just say this here. I got my kids are mandatory to take this class. My kids are listening right now going, I don't understand nothing Daddy talking about. And then they go, oh, I understood that. And then they go, but you know what? They understand more than adults because they are forced to be here and have these conversations with me all the time. So by the time they're 18, 19, they ain't got no choice. They'll be acting like the doggone daddy.
That's good. You're teaching them Aristotle, right?
That's a scholar joke.
No. My daughter's learning her Plato.
I'm sure. I play when I give my if we have time, I'll give you my answer. I'm more we'll come back to it. Plato and Plato has this. I'll come back to it. Go ahead, Grace.
Okay. So
take your time. They forget they got to go somewhere. They can go pee, cut the camera off and go pee and come back. Anybody worry about that?
No. Okay. So I think I would be on your side if I say, where does the scripture, for I know the thoughts I have for you?
It's nearly impossible, Grace, to be a Christian who believes in total depravity as you do and believe in free will. I would even say Dr. Ferris would have to agree with that one. You can't be a total, because she's Baptist. She's not just Baptist, Dr. Ferris. She's landmark Baptist. Yeah. She's landmark Baptist. Hard Grace.
Yes.
Is everybody saved?
No.
You see, yeah, you heard that? Yeah, I heard that. That was like, well, wait a minute. Now I thought about your question and you are offending me, sir. Wait a damn minute. Grace, do you need to remember the moment you are saved?
Do I need to remember?
Is there a moment,
a date, a time,
well, maybe not the time, but do you know your conversion moment?
Yes.
Okay. And if you don't have a conversion moment and you get baptized, is that baptism real?
No.
You just playing in water, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
Taking a bath. That's what they say.
Taking a bath. Okay. Hold on. I'm trying to show y'all what tulip, like, well, she's not all the way tulip. She dang on sure believes in the T. I don't know about the ULIP, but that total depravity. Grace, why do you need to be saved? Who do you align close with at birth? Is it Jesus or Adam?
Jesus.
No, at birth. At birth.
Oh, Adam.
Okay. And you need, and in order to not go to a fiery hell, who you need to align with?
Jesus.
All right. So Grace can't believe in free will because her theology says you better not believe in free. Grace, can you? This is an unfair question. I shouldn't ask you this question. I shouldn't ask nobody this question. I shouldn't even ask Dr. Ferris this question. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
But if you in Jesus' hand, can I pluck you out?
No.
Can you pluck you out?
No.
All right then. So it's safe to say Grace don't believe in free will. Can we disagree with that? Can we agree with that? And if you, Susan, can't believe in free will because everything Grace just said, Susan believes. But literally, we're not talking about you and making your decisions. I'm telling you the school in which you've come from. Oh, that's not a proper sentence. The school in which you come, that's actually a proper sentence. You're actually hard determinists and you don't even know you are.
Well, she believes that there must be some sort of decision to get baptized.
Oh, what a good point. So then Dr. Ferris says there's free will right there.
But is it really free will because it says, okay, choose ye this day. So you could throw in that it says some stuff about choice, but then it also says be wise with what you choose, because if there's a consequence to my choice, then is it really my free will? Because I can have a free will,
especially when it's only
choose.
two choices, huh? When it's
right.
only two
but
choices.
If you say, hey, if you choose this, this is what's gonna happen. So choose ye wisely. But if you're like, okay, well, Lord, and let me choose this because I don't want this to happen. So if my choice is consequent on a consequence that I really don't want, am I really having a free will? And then you can say, well, yeah, you can choose to do opposite of what it says to do. But then guess what? In my thoughts, he already knew you was gonna choose that.
That's fair. Okay, I'm gonna let Dr. Ferris respond to that for sure. No, I'm gonna let him respond to that for sure because you actually addressed that to him. Let me just say something first before that. This is why I hold these classes. I'm not trying to teach y'all nothing. I'm not trying to unconfuse you. And here's what I am attempting to do.
I'm glad you said unconfused. Okay, you're not trying to unconfuse us.
I'm not trying to confuse you. I hope you keep your little stupid theology. I just want you to change your tone.
Why my theology gotta be little and stupid?
Because tone will get you shot or tone will get you praised. And y'all out here with theology with a negative tone. You hear me? I'm trying to put other stuff in you to make you go, you know what?
Okay, wait a minute.
Was right.
Wait a minute, Antonio T. Smith.
Okay, you did, Dr. Right. So as she finished Dr. Ferris, she goes and spun a
doggone minute. Okay, so because you all the way on another side of the pendulum now, and you got me like, listen, Antonio T. Smith Jr.
I love messing with you. I
Okay,
really
listen,
do. I get so much joy out of it.
listen, Linda, listen. Now, this right here is it's like out on the branch, right? But now, when you think about what God is actually saying, who is man that he should have a greater say? Like what was being said earlier, they get in trouble because they are trying to be God. And all
Right.
of this,
That's the Greek word for, so akon is the Greek word for what God trying to do, what God did with Adam. It's a transliteration. And a transliteration just means you're replacing letters with consonants, letters, and vowels, and consonants, whatever, even though Hebrew didn't have no vowels. And God told Adam, you're perfect. Why you get ready to go back, Sandra? You're perfect. How you know you're perfect? God, Adam is a type of Jesus. You don't have to believe me. Romans 12 through Romans 5, 12 through 22 says the same thing. It's not me talking, that's Paul talking. Adam says he's perfect. How is Adam perfect? Because he was made from God's perfect creation, the earth, the clay. And he was made with God's perfect hands, or whatever the hell God did. And then God used Ruha to breathe, this is recorded in Genesis chapter 2, into Adam's nostrils. And Adam became what, Jerome and Grace? A living soul.
Each of us has a piece of God in us.
All right, then. So
everybody does.
Get ready in 15 seconds.
Two deaths. Which one you gonna get, one or two?
Fair enough. So what Sandra is saying is, Antonio, I heard you when you said that us folk who got the gift of God start trying to act like we are God. That's what Sandra is saying. Now, okay, now that they get you, Sandra, keep on going. Go ahead.
So because this is put in place, regardless of whether we think we have free will or we don't, bottom line is one, everybody's not going to receive God. That's a free will, right? You have the choice whether you want to receive it or you don't.
Romans 19:11 says a little bit the opposite, but keep going.
So now, because at the end of term, everybody's not going to be adopted because they don't want to be adopted.
Okay, so that's free will. They don't want to be, as free will. Keep going.
Right, that is free will.
No doubt.
And even past that stage of that 1,000-year mark, when again, the temptation and everything else that is let out to find out whether you're going to do this or not, you're going to be with me or you're not.
Fair enough. That's one of the three major views of the end times, eschatology and revelations. Keep going.
Because God is
a lot of people don't believe in the
thousand.
Hold on real quick, Sandra. A lot of people don't believe in the thousand. Now, the Quran only has the 1,000 years of peace. The Quran only has that. Only has that. There are three major rules. There's a great book by Richard Bachman of the theology of Revelations that really covers it up. But the Quran only believes in the 1,000 years of peace. Jesus Christ, most of you Christians don't know this, Jesus Christ, the Messiah, in the Quran, defeats the anti-Messiah, okay, and gets mortally wounded at Mecca. And then his blood, he dies at the foot of the temple, and that ushers in 1,000 years of peace. For Jews, there's a certain or a special dispensation when the temple gets rebuilt that the Jews will get, and they will become kings and queens of the land. For Christians, when the temple is rebuilt, Jesus will come and then we will be raptured up or whatever. This is why right now in what you call the Middle East, which is a bunch of trash, the Middle East is not a real thing. That's just something we invented in World War I. This is why you have all three of these religions trying to resurrect the temple first. Because all three of these religions have extreme eschatological implications for doing so. Okay, go ahead, Sandra. I'm catching everybody up with y'all.
So even though it said that we have this,
yep,
because we don't get that God already knows the plan that He has for us,
okay,
and we have not got it into our heart and mind to line up with His thinking. Like He says, if you lack knowledge, I need you to come and ask me. Don't ask people, I need you to come and ask me, so that you can draw close to me and I can draw close to you.
But
Then we will
wouldn't
have a
God
personal
send your
relationship.
answer through people? Or are you saying you can? Well, you know what? Let's just keep it at both and. You're saying both. You're saying God will give you answer through people, plus God will give you an answer directly. Let's keep it that way. Keep going.
Fact. Because people have to get to a place where they are aware of what they're doing.
Now that's where Antonio differs. What you just said made so much sense that Dr. Ferris and other Dr. Ferris and triplet Dr. Ferris and whoever else agree. I got to become aware. Antonio is going to vehemently disagree because Antonio was, if I'm going to say this like an old Baptist preacher, Phil, Antonio is going to say if Dr. Ferris can become aware by himself, what the heck is the point of the cross?
But that is the reason for the cross, so that you can become aware, because you don't have that in and of your own will.
As long as you know, Antonio would say, God did something first. That's how you become aware. You don't become aware and then invoke God. Okay. Then if that's the case, then you on my side there. you are determinism. You're determinist, whether you want to be or not. You're a determinist. You're determinist.
Can I say something right there about, because you said what was the purpose of the cross? Because I was just thinking, like, people were hearing from God before the cross, before Jesus even came. And so before he even went to the cross, people were able to get revelation knowledge straight from God. So I'm not saying that the cross isn't important or anything like that. However, I'm saying when he died, he did say he died so that the Holy Spirit can come back and, but I believe that the Holy Spirit was already within us.
You are agreeing with me even more. You're saying God did something deterministically the moment he spoke the world into existence, or what I would say, I would argue this in my dissertation with Dr. Ferris and stand on it, and his whole team of people. Genesis chapter 12, verses 1, 2, and 3 is that demarcation line. Then, if you don't agree with the creation covenant, you're going to agree with the Abrahamic covenant. You're going to agree with one of these.
Tracy, watch how you say he died now, okay?
You know, she Baptist. You know, she Baptist. You can't say he died. You can't say he died. All right. Here's where me and
he gave it up.
Here's where me and Dr. Ferris differ and where we agree. Well, we agree. I always agree. First off, we're gonna send y'all a link soon. It's called Bull Jive and Brilliance. We need all y'all to subscribe because we do this all the time, and it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy, 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 crazy. Anyway, Dr. Ferris and I, so I'm gonna take out agree and disagree because that's not what we do. There's I need to draw it. Is this okay? I need to draw it so y'all can understand what I'm saying. I need to draw it. Here is, if you take religion into respect, we're going to call this, Jerome, the beginning of time. Is this okay? I'm not telling you that's the beginning of time. It's just illustration purposes. Is this cool? That's the beginning of time. Everybody cool with that? All right, then. The Big Bang.
I don't see nothing. I just see a board. I don't see no mark.
Let me pull it down there. There you go.
There you go.
All right,
Thank you.
Pull it down. All right. Now, and you know what? I think Dr. Ferris would appreciate this. Now, too close. Now what happens is, line. Now what happens, Deanna, is something in the beginning of time happened, and there is this line. There's this events that happen. Now, Dr. Ferris and myself would argue this event. Sandra would argue. Jerome would argue. Grace would argue. Genesis chapter 1 was a doggone event. Is what in the beginning was the word. The word was God. This is what they gonna argue. You hear me? They gonna say God spoke the word into existence. Then what happened here, Tracy, to your argument is what happened here was the cross happened. And at the cross, okay, we're gonna make this a cross. Can we make that a cross? Can we make this little puzzle piece a cross now? At the cross, a few things happen. Either this line can let me put on Dr. Ferris' face. No, let me see what he had. Okay. At this line right here, what occurs is the cross. Everybody okay with that? Now, this is where we differ. I mean humanity. This line continued to happen with no changes. We call this the Catholic Church. We call this continuity. We call this line continued. Or this is where Sandra and Tracy and a lot of everybody else is at. This line, something happened, and Dr. Ferris would appreciate this is not his argument, but Dr. Ferris is certainly going to appreciate this. That something happened here to where there's a new path, and we can call this new path the church. But that church still draws this line from the story of Israel. That's why it's connected. It's not that it went a different path. It's just that it's connected to the same path. And then here is Jews are still here, and then blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that being said, it is safe to argue, well, it's not safe to argue. Understanding that thing, this is where me and Dr. Ferris, this is what makes me and Dr. Ferris so unique and had fun in 2014, 15. And I actually graduated. That was December 5th. That was my graduating semester. I graduated December 2015. So Dr. Ferris held the keys to my graduation in his hand. I graduated 2015, December. I took like a couple of classes.
So you owe him big time.
I do. Where me and Dr. Ferris, see, we don't disagree. It's just like this cross moment, whatever you want to call it, cross, and then there's a line. There's a line of continuation, and there's a line of Dr. Ferris is still continuing because Dr. Ferris he's a philosopher theologian. So he continues straight. Antonio did the veer because I'm a scientist. I'm a mathematician. That's where we differ. You get it? Not that we disagree. My line went to science and mathematics. His line went to theology and philosophy. He happens to do science and mathematics well. I happen to do theology and philosophy well. This is why we can have the conversations that we have. Now, I don't mean to speak for a grown man. Dr. Ferris, is that a pretty fair assessment? I'm sure you got more to add to it, but is that a pretty fair assessment?
Well, I mean, I think that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think certainly the conventions that have shaped the way that you think about things have come from certain scientific communities.
There's no doubt about it.
Maybe that's the way. Yeah, I think that's maybe what you're saying.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And for you, all problems come back to theology, which I agree with. I love the quote that you have when you back. If you want to tell them the quote, it's a really good quote.
The quote, all people ask philosophical questions. All philosophical questions have theological answers, and all people ask philosophical questions Therefore, theological answers are required for all philosophical questions.
There you go. So, and Jerome was like, "You got doggone right, Dr. Fitz. Everything come back to the Lord." And I'm not mad at y'all. I'm not mad at you. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm not mad at y'all. Let me just say a few things. Give me like 5 minutes and we get out of here because I gotta pee anyway. All right. So
Antonio,
overshare. Yes, sir.
thank you for that. Thank you for that visual illustration.
Yes. That's
Showing
my
you
duty
and
and
Dr.
my
Ferris.
service.
I like that. Now I know why you're crazy.
I'm crazy. I'm absolutely crazy. I'm absolutely crazy. I am a theologian that is also a quantum physicist. Remember, I almost left HBU. I was enrolled in University of Houston to be a quantum physicist. I am a very weird. It's like Dr. Ferris took a berry, spliced it, took out the seed, then took an orange, sliced that, took out the seed.
Why you want to blame him for your dysfunction?
You know, and then
why you want to do that?
And then melted the two together, and it made them grow together. Now I'm like I'm an orange berry, you know. But it does give me a very unique perspective on things. It really does. It really does. Okay, let me give you what I actually think, and then we can argue about it for the next 4 weeks. Is it? If that's not fun, I won't do it. Is that?
No, please do.
Okay. Okay, Amir leaned in. He even leaned the baby in. Okay, so we gonna say, all right, here it is. Amir, make sure you call me tomorrow too, bro. Make sure you call me tomorrow too. We keep getting busy. I can't get with you. All right. I do not believe in free will at all. I also believe in hard determinism. I also believe in free will. It seems like I'm putting the two together. I'm not. This is what I believe. It's why I showed that time. I showed 3 videos on time, didn't I? I showed 1 video on time and 2 videos on time and how time is everywhere, past, present. Then I showed a principle that if you look at something, it slows, and if you don't look at it, I'll spare you for the name of the principle. This is what I believe. I believe that God, consciousness, the whatever the bleep you want to call it, I think time is happening all over at the same time, now, today, and yesterday, forever, all at the same time. I also believe that Dr. Ferris is on every last one of those timelines at the same time. I also believe that his consciousness can only consciously conceive this timeline, and I can prove it. No, not multiverses, not multiverses. I'm not arguing multiverses. However, I do believe in multiverses, but that's not what I'm saying here. So don't hear multiverse, hear multi-you. I don't want you to make the verse important here. I want you to know that Dr. Ferris is still in 1987. I can prove it.
Crazy because time doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't exist. Well, I'll skip. Come back to that in a second. I'm trying to wrap up. Can Dr. Ferris remember 1987? Yes. Right? Now, how can he remember something if God is not there? Because if God is there, then you don't get to, if you believe in any religion, you do not get to believe that something can exist without God. You do not get to do that. I'm trapping you in your own religion. You are not allowed to say that a timeline can exist without God still being there. And you're not allowed to say God is not omnipresent. God is not just omnipresent, God is omnitime. Present in a timeline.
What we know, time doesn't exist according to what we know and how we know it to be.
You're absolutely right. Every last one of you who've been in a car accident, you remember what time of day it was. You remember what the air smelled like. You remember what you were driving. You remember what you were ran. You remember the car that hit you. You remember every single thing about it, because that's called flashbulb memory in psychology. But also, I am arguing here. We could argue about it, just don't argue right now. I'm arguing here that God is still on that timeline. Here's my main argument. And so is Jalen. That's why he can remember it. Because wherever God is, Jalen is. And if he can remember a thing, then both God and Jalen are still at that thing. That's how time works. You don't have to agree with me, but you can only consciously, and we have mathematics for this, but you can only consciously understand one timeline, okay? If hard determinism is true, then the human rationality does not exist. I agree. Human rationality does exist. Okay. Therefore, hard determinism is false. Here's a syllogism into party. Fair enough. That's one of those, if that is to this, then this is to that, right?
Amir asks, "A God is not everything and nothing."
But God can't be nothing because can God make a rock so big God can't carry? So Thomas Aquinas would say God can't be nothing because nothing is nothing. And if nothing is, see, y'all have an idea of nothing. When you think of nothing, you think of like black, but black is nothing. Black is something. So you say a void, but a void is something. Nothing is the absence of everything. And God can't be, hear me well, God can't be nothing. So therefore, nothing cannot exist. What can exist, though, is ex nihilo. A God invents things out of nothing. That can exist. You can't say nothing created God, but you can say God created something out of nothing. Even Dr. Fair is going to agree with that. That's pure Latin I just did to y'all on that one. Okay, that's pure Latin, man. All right. So wrapping this up. We're going to argue this for the next 4 weeks. Your job is to go find YouTube videos to prove me wrong. I hope you prove me wrong because I just want you to think for yourselves. That's all. I don't care about the results. I care that you care enough to think for yourself. And when you think of when I think about my calling on this planet, this is my calling. That's why I do it so well. My job is to make people go, huh, I ain't like that. Let me go read. And I am successful when you go do that. When you get mad at me and go read for yourself, there's a certain God that dropped $10,000 in my bank account. You hear me? Okay, something like that. All right, wrapping this up. So I'm arguing
real
here.
quick.
Yeah,
Antonio,
you get Grace. I want it 8:46, 8:47. I want to be done. Okay, go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead,
I
Sandra.
just want to say this. When you was talking about the nothing, the movie that helped put that in perspective was the Never Ending Story. You seen it, right?
Yeah, of course.
All car.
I grew up in the 80s. Atreyu.
Come on now. Come on, you gotta know. Almighty. That don't explain it. I'm just saying.
So if you're using nothing that way, then that's fair, but that nothing was actually something, right? You know what I'm saying? Let me Grace, give me the 849. I may not use it all, but I forgot to read this text message I got. I want to read it word for word because y'all need to subscribe to Bull Jive and Brilliance when it comes out. This is awesome. This came at 7:41. This is awesome. I could listen to you and Dr. Ferris go back and forth all day. Like the guy that used to come. Okay, well, the rest of that's irrelevant. Okay. There you go. Okay. That was said, and I just wanted to point that out that we do this all day. Okay. The truth is, I'm not actually arguing for hard determinism. It sounds like I am. And the truth is, I'm actually I'm not actually arguing for free will either. What I'm saying is, you've already made these choices because this timeline already existed. It exists now. And you didn't come here to make choices. You came here to understand why you made choices. You didn't come in to make choices because, according to the Bible, 1 year is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is 1 year. God is on all these timelines. And since you are a member of the body of the same substance, so are you. But you don't have to believe me, because every time you get inspiration, it's from a future timeline. And the Greek word from inspiration is fire from within yourself. I didn't make Koine Greek. That's got nothing to do with me. That's got nothing to do with me. I didn't make it. But Greeks understood that inspiration is fire from your future self. That's in the word. If you do word study, and my minor is in biblical languages, and I'm really, really, really scary good at languages. I'm scary good at languages. What I'm arguing is, all right, Grace, I said 49, I want to be done in 2 minutes. What I'm arguing is Dr. Ferris is 1,000 Dr. Ferrises. And 1,000 Dr. Ferrises are happening at the same time. We can't conceive it that way, but he ain't God. But God can. So Dr. Ferris is 100% acting in his free will and using his free will 100%, which makes prayer work. Because if determinism existed, then what the hell are you praying for? To be honest, determinism has a lot of repercussions that I really don't like. Because why pray if it's already determined if you're going to get it or not? What's the point of believing in the law of attraction? What's the point of having a child if you can't? What's the point of go jog if you can't extend your life? What's the point of eating healthy if you can't extend your life expectancy? What's the point of brushing your teeth if you're going to lose them anyway? It makes no point. Determinism has a lot of unintended side effects that I'm not okay with. Just know 2 things about this conversation. Know that Antonio can argue an entire point and not agree with it, and I'm very good at it. I'm very good at it. Okay, very good at it. I think that Dr. Ferris has made all his choices with his Grace. Write this down for me. Write this down in the chat, because I want everybody to go to this. I think Dr. Ferris has made all his choices with his free will. 100% free will. I also believe he's made 1,000 versions of him have made all those choices. It says God is the Alpha, the beginning of time, and the Omega, the end of time. That's why we believe in determinism, because we see through this broken glass that all of this is already connected. And since it's all on multiple timelines, not verses, I'm not arguing verses right now, multiple timelines, that's what we're calling determinism. That's what quantum physics and quantum mechanics Dr. Ferris is picking up on. And we ignorantly catching science, and we're catching this science and looking at an angle of infinity, and then we're arguing that free will doesn't exist. Antonio T. Smith Jr., you can't plant better, you can't dominate. Thank you so much, everybody. Love you, everybody.
Love you more.
I love messing with y'all. Y'all mad at me. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one.